All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Remarque. Chapter 1. We are at rest 5 miles behind the front. Yesterday we were relieved, and now our bellies are full of beef and haricot beans. We are satisfied and at peace. Each man has another mess tin full for the evening, and, what is more, there is a double ration of sausage and bread. That puts a man in fine trim. We have not had such luck at this for a long time. The cook, with his carroty head, is begging us to eat. He beckons with his ladle to every one that passes, and spoons him out a great dollop. He does not see how he can empty his stew-pot in the time for coffee. Tajan and Mueller have produced 2 wash-basins, and had them filled to the brim as a reserve. In Tajan this is veracity. In Mueller it is foresight. Where Tajan puts it all is a mystery, for he is and always will be as thin as a rake. What's more important still is the issue of a double ration of smokes, 10 cigars, 20 cigarettes, and 2 quids of chew per man. Now that is decent. I have exchanged my chewing tobacco with Kaczynski for his cigarettes, which means I have 40 altogether. That's enough for a day. It is true we have no right to this windfall. The Prussian is not so generous. We have only a miscalculation to thank for it. 14 days ago we had to go up and relieve the front line. It was fairly quiet on our sector, so the quartermaster, who remained in the rear, had requisitioned the usual quantity of rations and provided for the full company of 150 men. But on the last day an astonishing number of English heavies opened up on us with high explosive drumming ceaselessly on our position, so that we suffered severely and came back only 80 strong. Last night we moved back and settled down to get a good sleep for once. Kaczynski is right when he says it will not be such a bad war if only one could get a little more sleep. In the line we had next to none, and 14 days is a long time at one stretch. It was noon before the first of us crawled out of our quarters. Half an hour later every man had a mess tin, and we gathered at the cookhouse, which smelt greasy and nourishing. At the head of the queue, of course, were the hungriest. Little Albert Kropp, the clearest thinker among us, and therefore only a lance corporal. Mueller, who still carries his school textbooks with him, dreams of examinations, and during a bombardment mutters propositions in physics. Lear, who wears a full beard and has the preference for the girls from the officers' brothels. He swears that they are obliged by an army order to wear silk chimseys, and to bathe before entertaining guests of the rank of captain and upwards. And as the fourth, myself, Paul Baumer. All 4 are 19 years of age, and all 4 joined up at the same class as volunteers for the war. Close behind us were our friends. Tajan, a skinny locksmith of our own age, the biggest eater of the company. He sits down to eat as thin as a grasshopper and gets up as big as a bug in the family way. Hyvestus, of the same age, a peat digger, who can easily hold a ration loaf in his hand and say, "Guess what I've got in my fist?" Then Dietering, a peasant who thinks of nothing but his farmyard and his wife. And finally Stanislaus Kaczynski, the leader of our group, shrewd, cunning, and hard-bitten, 40 years of age, with a face of the soil, blue eyes, bent shoulders, and a remarkable nose for dirty weather, good food, and soft jobs. Our gang formed the head of the queue before the cookhouse. We were growing impatient, for the cook paid no attention to us. Finally Kaczynski called to him, "Say, Heinrich, open up the soup kitchen. Anyone can see the beans are done." He shook his head sleepily. "You must all be there first." Tajan grinned. "We are all here." The sergeant cook still took no notice. "That may do for you," he said, "but where are the others?" "They won't be fed by you today. They're either in the dressing station or pushing up daisies." The cook was quite disconcerted as the facts dawned on him. He was staggered. "And I have cooked for 150 men." Kropp poked him in the ribs. "Then for once we'll have enough. Come on, begin." Suddenly a vision came over Tajan. His sharp, mousy features began to shine. His eyes grew small with cunning. His jaws twitched, and he whispered hoarsely, "Man, then you've got bread for 150 men too, huh?" The sergeant cook nodded, absent-minded and bewildered. Tajan seized him by the tunic. "And sausage?" Ginger nodded again. Tajan's chaps quivered. "Tobacco too?" Yes, everything. Tajin beamed. What a bean feast. That's all for us. Each man gets, wait a bit. Yes, practically 2 issues. Then Ginger stirred himself and said, that won't do. We got excited and began to crowd around. Why won't that do, you old carrot? Demanded Katazinski. 80 men can't have what is meant for 150. We'll soon show you, growled Mueller. I don't care about the stew, but I can only issue rations for 80 men, persisted Ginger. Katazinski got angry. You might be generous for once. You haven't drawn food for 80 men. You've drawn it for the second company. Good, let's have it then. We are the second company. We began to jostle the fellow. No one felt kindly toward him, for it was his fault that the food often came up to us in the line too late and cold. Under shell fire, he wouldn't bring his kitchen up near enough, so that our soup couriers had to go much further than those of the other companies. Nalbolke, of the first company, is a much better fellow. He is as fat as a hamster in winter, but he trundles his pots when it comes to that right up to the very front line. We were in just the right mood, and there would certainly have been a dust-up if our company commander had not appeared. He informed himself of the dispute, and only remarked, yes, we did have heavy losses yesterday. He glanced into the Dixie. The beans look good. Ginger nodded. Cooked with meat and fat. The lieutenant looked at us. He knew what we were thinking, and he knew many other things too, because he came to the company as a non-com and was promoted from the ranks. He lifted the lid from the Dixie again and sniffed. Then passing on, he said, bring me a plateful, serve out all the rations, we can do with them. Ginger looked sheepish as Tajin danced around him. It doesn't cost you anything. Anyone would think the quartermaster's store belonged to him, and now he got on with you, you blubber sticker. You don't miscount either. You be hanged, spat out Ginger. When things get beyond him, he throws up the sponge altogether. He just goes to pieces, and as if to show that all things were equal to him, of his own free will, he issued in addition 1/2 pound of synthetic honey to each man. Today is wonderfully good. The mail has come, and almost every man has a few letters and papers. We stroll over to the meadow behind the billets. Crop has the round lid of a margarine tub under his arm. On the right side of the meadow, a large common latrine has been built, a roofed and durable construction, but that is for recruits who as yet have not learned to make the most of whatever comes their way. We want something better. Scattered about everywhere, there are separate individual boxes for the same purpose. They are square, near boxes with wooden sides all around, and have unimpeachably satisfactory seats. On the sides are hand grips enabling one to shift them about. We move 3 together in a ring and sit down comfortably, and it will be 2 hours before we get up again. I well remember how embarrassed we were as recruits in barracks when we used to use the general latrine. There were no doors, and 20 men sat side by side in a railway carriage, so that they could be reviewed all at one glance, for soldiers must always be under supervision. Since then, we have learned better than to be shy about such trifling immodesties. In time, things far worse than that came easy to us. Here in the open air, though, the business is entirely a pleasure. I no longer understand why we should always have a shield at these things before. They are, in fact, just as natural as eating and drinking. We might, perhaps, have paid no particular attention to them, and had they not figured so large in our experience, nor been such novelties to our mind, to the old hands they had long been a mere matter of course. The soldier is on friendlier terms than other men with his stomach and intestines. 3/4 of his vocabulary is deprived from these regions, and they give an intimate flavor to expressions of his greatest joy as well as of his deepest indignation. It is impossible to express oneself in any other way so clearly and pithily. Our families and our teachers will be shocked when we go home, but here it is the universal language. Enforced publicity has, in our eyes, restored the character of complete innocence to all of these things. More than that, they are so much a matter of course that their comfortable performance is fully as much enjoyed as the playing of a safe-top running flush. Not for nothing was a word latrine roomer invented. These places are the regimental gossip shop and common rooms. We feel ourselves for the time being better off than in any other palatial white-tilled convenience. There, it can only be hygienic. Here, it is beautiful. These are wonderfully carefree hours. Over us is the blue sky. On the horizon float the bright yellow sunlit observation balloons, and the many little white clouds of the anti-aircraft shells. Often they rise in a sheaf, and they follow after an airman. We hear the muffled rumble on the front only as a very distant thunder, bumblebees droning by quite drown in it. Around us stretches the flowery meadow. The grasses sway their tall spears. The white butterflies flutter around and float on the soft, warm wind of the late summer. We read letters and newspapers and smoke. We take off our caps and lay them down beside us. The wind plays with our hair. It plays with our words and thoughts. The 3 boxes stand in the midst of the glowing red field poppies. We set the lid of the margarine tub on our knees and have a good table for a game of scat. Krop has the cards with him. After every mesa au vert, we have a round nap. One could sit like this forever. The notes of an accordion float across from the billets. Often we lay aside the cards and look about us. One of us will say, "Well, boys," or "It was a near thing that time," and, for a moment, we fall silent. There is in each of us a feeling of constraint. We are all sensible of it. It needs no words to communicate it. It might easily have happened that we should not be sitting here on our boxes today. It came damn near to that. And so everything is new and brave, red poppies and good food, cigarettes and summer breeze. Krop asks, "Anyone seen Kemmerich lately?" "He's up at St. Joseph's," I tell him. Mueller explains that he had a flesh wound in his thigh. A good blighty. We decide to go and see him this afternoon. Krop pulls out a letter. "Kantorek sends you all his best wishes." Mueller throws his cigarette away and says, "I wish he was here." Kantorek had been our schoolmaster, a stern little man in a gray tail coat, with a face like a shrew mouse. He was about the same size as Corporal Himmelstrasse, the terror of Klosterberg. It is very queer that the unhappiness of the world is so often brought on by small men. They are so much more energetic and uncompromising than the big fellows. I have always taken good care to keep out of the sections with the small company commanders. They are mostly confounded little martinets. During drill time, Kantorek gave us long lectures until the whole of our class went, under his shepherding, to the district commander and volunteered. I can see him now, as he used to glare at us through his spectacles and say in a moving voice, "Won't you join up, comrades?" These teachers always carry their feelings ready in their waistcoat pockets and trot them out by the hour. But we didn't think of that then. There was indeed one of us who hesitated and did not want to fall into line. That was Joseph Bem, a plump, homely fellow. But he did allow himself to be persuaded, otherwise he would have been ostracized. And perhaps more of us thought as he did, but no one could very well stand out, because at that time even one's parents were ready with the word coward. And no one had the vaguest idea what we were in for. The wisest were just the poor and the simple people. They knew the war to be a misfortune, whereas those who were better off and should have been able to see more clearly what the consequences would be were beside themselves with joy. Karazinski said that was a result of their upbringing. It made them stupid. And what Kat said, he had thought about. Strange to say, Bem was one of the first to fall. He got hit in the eye during an attack, and we left him lying for dead. We couldn't bring him with us, because we had to come back helter-skelter. In the afternoon, suddenly we heard him call, and saw him crawling about in no man's land. He had only been knocked unconscious. Because he could not see, and was mad with pain, he failed to keep under cover, and so was shot down before anyone could go and fetch him in. Naturally, we couldn't blame Kantorek for this. Where would the world be if one brought every man to book? There were thousands of Kantoreks, all of whom were convinced that they were acting for the best, in a way that cost them nothing. And that is why they let us down so badly. For us lads of 18, they ought to have been mediators and guides to the world of maturity, the world of work, of duty, of culture, of progress, to the future. We often made fun of them and played jokes on them, but in our hearts we trusted them. The idea of authority, which they represented, was associated in our minds with a greater insight and a more humane wisdom. But the first death we saw shattered this belief. We had to recognize that our generation was more to be trusted than theirs. They surpassed us only in faces and in cleverness. The first bombardment showed us our mistake, and under it the world that they had taught it to us broke in pieces. While they continued to write and talk, we saw the wounded and the dying. While they taught that duty to one's country is the greatest thing, we already knew that death throes are stronger. But for all that, we were no mutineers, no deserters, no cowards. They were very free with all those expressions. We loved our country as much as they. We went courageously into every action, but also we distinguished the false from true. We had suddenly learned to see, and we saw that there was nothing of their world left. We were all at once terribly alone, and alone we must see it through. Before going to see Remarque, we pack up his things. He will still need them on the way back. In the dressing station there is a great activity. It reeks as ever of carbolic pus and sweat. We are accustomed to a good deal in the billets, but this makes us feel faint. We ask for Remarque. He lies in a large room and receives us with feeble expressions of joy and helpless agitation. While he was unconscious, someone had stolen his watch. Mueller shakes his head. I always told you that nobody should carry as good a watch as that. Mueller is rather crude and tactless. Otherwise, he would hold his tongue, for anybody can see that Remarque will never come out of that place again. Whether he finds his watch or not will make no difference. At most, one will be able to send it to his people. How goes it, Franz? Said Kropp. Remarque's head sinks. Not so bad, but I have such a damned pain in my foot. We look at his bed covering. His leg lies under a wire basket. The bed covering arches over it. I kick Mueller on the shin, for he is just about to tell Remarque that the orderlies told us outside that Remarque has lost his foot. The leg is amputated. He looks ghastly yellow and wan. In his face there are already the strained lines that we know so well. We have seen them hundreds of times now. They are not so much lines as marks. Under the skin the life no longer pulses. It has already pressed out the boundaries of the body. Death is working through from within. It already has commanded in the eyes. Here lies her comrade Remarque, who a little while ago was roasting horseflesh with us and squatting in the shell holes. He it is still, and yet it is not he any longer. His features have become uncertain and faint, like a photographic plate from which two pictures have been taken. Even his voice sounds like ashes. I think of the time when he went away. His mother, a good plump matron, brought him to the station. She wept continuously. Her face was bloated and swollen. Remarque felt embarrassed, for she was the least composed of all. She simply dissolved into fat and water. Then she caught sight of me, and took hold of my arm again and again, and implored me to look after Franz out there. Indeed, he did have a face like a child, and such frail bones that after 4 weeks pack-carrying he already had flat feet. But how can a man look after anyone in the field? Now you will soon be going home, says Kropp. You would have had to wait at least 3 or 4 months for your leave. Remarque nods. I cannot bear to look at his hands. They are like wax. Under the nails is the dirt of the trenches. It shows through blue-black like poison. It strikes me that these nails will continue to grow like lean, fantastic cellar plants, long after Remarque breathes no more. I can see the picture before me. They twist themselves into corkscrews and grow, and with them the hair of the decaying skull, just like grass in good soil, just like grass. How can it be possible? Mueller leans over. We have brought your things, Franz. Remarque sighs with his hands. Put 'em under the bed. Mueller does so. Remarque starts on again about the watch. How can one calm him without making him suspicious? Mueller reappears with a pair of airman's boots. They are fine English boots of soft yellow leather, which reach to the knees and lace up all the way. They are things to be coveted. Mueller is delightful at the sight of them. He matches their soles against his own clumsy boot and says, "Will you be taking them with you then, Franz?" We all three have had the same thought. Even if he should get better, he would be able to use only one. They are no use to him. But as things are now, it is a pity that they should stay here. The orderlies will of course grab them as soon as he's dead. "Won't you leave them with us?" Mueller repeats. Kemmerich doesn't want to. They're his most prized possessions. "Well, we could exchange," suggests Mueller again. "Out here, one can make some use of them." Still, Kemmerich is not to be moved. I tread on Mueller's foot. Reluctantly, he puts the fine boots back again under the bed. We talk a little more, and then take our leave. "Cheerio, Franz." I promise him to come back in the morning. Mueller talks of doing so too. He is thinking of the lace-up boots and means to be on the spot. Kemmerich groans. He is feverish. We get a hold of an orderly outside and ask to give Kemmerich a dose of morphia. He refuses. If we were to give morphia to everyone, we would have to have tubs full. "You only attend to officers properly," says Kropp viciously. I hastily intervene and give him a cigarette. He takes it. "Are you usually allowed to give it then?" I ask him. He is annoyed. "If you don't think so, then why do you ask?" I press a few more cigarettes into his hand. "Do us a favor." "Well, all right," he says. Kropp goes in with him. He doesn't trust him and wants to see. We wait outside. Mueller returns to the subject of the boots. "They would fit me perfectly. In these boots I get a blister after blister. Do you think he will last till tomorrow, after drill, if he passes out in the night? You know where the boots." Kropp returns. "Do you think?" he asks. "Done for," said Mueller emphatically. We go back to the huts. I think of the letter that I must write tomorrow to Kemmerich's mother. I am freezing. I could do with a tot of rum. Mueller pulls out some grass and chews it. Suddenly, little Kropp throws his cigarette away, stamps on it savagely, and looking around him with a broken and distracted face, stammers, "Damn shit! The damn shit!" We walk on for a long time. Kropp has calmed himself. We understand. He saw red. Out there, every man gets like that sometimes. "What has Cantoric written you?" Mueller asks him. He laughs. "We are the Iron Youth." We all three smile bitterly. Kropp rails. He is glad that he can speak. Yes, that's the way they think, these 100,000 Cantorics. Iron Youth. Youth. We are none of us more than 20 years old. But young? Youth? That is long ago. We are old folk. Chapter 2. It is strange to think that at home, in the drawer of my writing table, there lies the beginning of a play called Saul, and a bundle of poems. Many an evening I have worked over them. We all did something of the kind. But that has become so unreal to me I cannot comprehend it any more. Our early life is cut off from the moment we came here, and that without our lifting a hand. We often try to look back on it and to find an explanation, but never quite succeed. For us young men of 20 everything is extraordinarily vague. For Kropp, Mueller, Lehr, and for me, for all of us whom Cantoric calls the Iron Youth. All the older men are linked up with their previous life. They have wives, children, occupations, and interests. They have a background which is so strong that the war cannot obliterate it. We young men of 20, however, have only our parents, and some, perhaps, a girl. That is not much, for at our age the influence of parents is at its weakest, and girls have not yet got a hold over us. Besides this, there was little else. Some enthusiasm, a few hobbies, and our school. Beyond this our life did not extend, and of this nothing remains. Cantoric would say that we stood on the threshold of life, and so it would seem. We had, as of yet, taken no root. The war swept us away. For the others, the older men, it is but an interruption. They are able to think beyond it. We, however, have been gripped by it, and do not know what the end may be. We know only that in some strange and melancholy way that have become a wasteland. All the same, we are not often sad. Though Mueller would be delighted to have Kemmerich's boots, he is really quite as sympathetic as another who could not bear to think of such a thing for grief. He merely sees things clearly. Were Kemmerich able to make any use of the boots, then Mueller would rather go barefoot over barbed wire than scheme how to get a hold of them. but as it is, the boots are quite inappropriate to Kemmerich's circumstances, whereas Müller can make good use of them. Kemmerich will die. It is immaterial who gets them. Why, then, should Müller not succeed to them? He has more right than a hospital orderly. When Kemmerich is dead, it will be too late. Therefore, Müller is already on the watch. We have lost all senses of other considerations, because they are artificial. Only the facts are real and important for us, and good boots are scarce. Once it was different. When we went to the district commanded to enlist, we were a class of 20 young men, many of whom proudly shaved for the first time before going to the barracks. We had no definite plans for our future. Our thoughts of a career and occupation were as of yet too unpractical and character to furnish any scheme of life. We were still crammed full of vague ideas which gave to life, and to the war also, an ideal and almost romantic character. We were trained in the army for 10 weeks, and in this time more profoundly influenced than by 10 years of school. We learned that a bright button is weightier than 4 volumes of Schopenhauer. At first astonished, then embittered, and finally indifferent, we recognized that what matters is not the mind but the boot brush, not intelligence but the system, not freedom but the drill. We became soldiers with eagerness and enthusiasm, but they have done everything to knock that out of us. After 3 weeks it was no longer incomprehensible to us that a braided postman should have more authority over us than formerly our parents, our teachers, and the whole gamut of culture from Plato to Goethe. With our young awakened eyes we saw that the classical conception of the fatherland held by our teachers resolved itself here into renunciation of personality, such as one would not ask of the meanest servants. Salutes spring into attention, parade marches, presenting arms, right wheel, left wheel, clicking the heels, insults, and 1,000 pettifogging details. We had fancied our task would be different, only to find we were to be trained for heroism as though we were circus ponies. But we soon accustomed ourselves to it. We learned, in fact, that some of these things were necessary, but the rest merely show. Soldiers have a fine nose for such distinctions. By 3s and 4s our class was scattered over the platoons amongst Frisian fishermen, peasants, and laborers, with whom we soon made friends. Kropp, Müller, Kemmerich, and I to number 9 platoon under Corporal Himmelstoss. He had the reputation of being the strictest disciplinarian in the camp, and was proud of it. He was a small, undersized fellow with a foxy, waxed mustache, who had seen 12 years' service and was in civil life a postman. He had a special dislike of Kropp, Schaden, Vestas, and me, because he sensed a quiet defiance. I have remade his bed 14 times in one morning. Each time he had some fault to find and pulled it to pieces. I have kneaded a pair of prehistoric boots that were as hard as iron for 20 hours, with intervals, of course, until they became as soft as butter, and not even Himmelstoss could find anything more to do with them. Under his orders I have scrubbed out the corporal's mess with a toothbrush. Kropp and I were given the job of clearing the barracks square of snow with a hand broom and a dustpan, and we would have gone on till we were frozen had not a lieutenant accidentally appeared who sent us off and hauled Himmelstoss over the coals. But the only result of this was to make Himmelstoss hate us more. For 6 weeks consecutively I did guard every Sunday, and was hut orderly for the same length of time. With a full pack and rifle I have had to practice on a wet, soft, newly plowed field the prepare to advance, advance, and the lie down, until I was one lump of mud and finally collapsed. 4 hours later I had to report to Himmelstoss with my clothes scrubbed clean, my hands chafed and bleeding. Together with Kropp, Vestas, and Schaden, I have stood at attention in a hard frost without gloves for a quarter of an hour at a stretch, while Himmelstoss watched for the slightest movement of our bare fingers on the steel barrel of the rifle. I have run 8 times from the top floor of the barracks down to the courtyard in my shirt at 2 o'clock in the morning because my drawers projected 3 inches beyond the edge of the stool on which one had to stack all one's things. Alongside me ran the corporal, Himmelstoss, and trod on my bare toes. At bayonet practice I had constantly to fight with Himmelstoss. I with a heavy iron weapon, whilst he had a handy wooden one which he easily struck my arms till they were black and blue. Once indeed I became so infuriated that I ran at him blindly and gave him a mighty jab in the stomach and knocked him down. When he reported me, the company commander laughed at him and told him he ought to keep his eyes open. He understood Himmelstas, and apparently was not displeased at his discomfiture. I became a past master on the parallel bars and excelled at physical jerks. We have trembled at the mere sound of his voice, but his runaway post-horse never got the better of us. One Sunday, as Krop and I were lugging a latrine bucket on a pole across the barrack yard, Himmelstas came by, all polished up and spry for going out. He planted himself in front of us and asked how we liked the job. In spite of ourselves, we tripped and emptied the bucket over his legs. He raved, but the limit had been reached. "That means clink," he yelled. But Krop had had enough. "There'll be an inquiry first," he said, "and then we'll unload." "Mind how you speak to a non-commissioned officer," bawled Himmelstas. "Have you lost your senses? You wait till you're spoken to. What will you do anyway?" "Show you up, Corporal," said Krop, his thumbs in line with the seams of his trousers. Himmelstas saw that we meant it and went off without saying a word, but before he disappeared he growled, "You'll drink this." But that was the end of his authority. He tried it on once more in the plough field with his "Prepare to advance, advance," and "Lie down." We obeyed each order, since an order's an order and has to be obeyed. But we did it so slowly that Himmelstas became desperate. Carefully we went down on our knees, then on our hands, and so on. In the meantime, quite infuriated, he had given another command. But before we had even begun to sweat, he was hoarse. After that, he left us in peace. He did indeed always refer to us as swine, but there was always, nevertheless, a certain respect in his tone. There were many other staff corporals, the majority of whom were more decent, but above all, each of them wanted to keep his good job there as long as possible, and this he could only do by being strict with the recruits. So we were put through every conceivable refinement of parade ground soldiering till we often howled with rage. Many of us became ill through it. Wolf actually died of inflammation of the lung, but we would have felt ridiculous had we hauled down our colors. We became hard, suspicious, pitiless, vicious, tough, and that was good, for these attributes were just what we lacked. Had we gone into the trenches without this period of training, most of us would certainly have gone mad. Only thus were we prepared for what awaited us. We did not break down, but adapted ourselves over 20 years, which made many another thing so grievous, helped us in this. But by far the most important result was that it awakened in us a strong, practical sense of esprit de corps, which in the field developed into the finest thing that arose out of the war, comradeship. I sit by Kemerich's bed. He is sinking steadily. Around us is the great commotion. A hospital train has arrived, and the wounded fit to be moved are being selected. The doctor passes by Kemerich's bed without once looking at him. "Next time, Franz," I say. He raises himself on the pillow with his elbows. "They have amputated my leg." "He knows it too, then?" I nod and answer, "You must be thankful you've come off with that." He is silent. I resume, "It might have been both legs, Franz. Wegeler has lost his right arm." "That's much worse. Besides, you will be going home." He looks at me. "Do you think so?" "Of course. Do you think so?" he repeats. "Sure, Franz. Once you've got over this operation." He beckons me to bend down. I stoop over him, and he whispers, "I don't think so." "Don't talk rubbish, Franz. In a couple days you'll see for yourself. What is it anyway, an amputated leg? Here they patch up far worse things than that." He lifts one hand. "Look here, though. These fingers. That's the result of the operation. Just eat decently and you'll soon be well again. Do they look after you properly?" He points to a dish that is still half full. I get excited. "Franz, you must eat. Eating is the main thing. That looks good, too." He turns away. After a pause, he says slowly, "I wanted to become a head forester once." "So you may still," I assure him. There are splendid artificial limbs now. You'd hardly know there was anything missing. They are fixed on to the muscles. You can move the fingers and work and even write with an artificial hand. And besides, they will always be making new improvements." For a while he lies still. Then he says, "You can take my lace-up boots with you for Mueller." I nod and wonder what to say to encourage him. His lips have fallen away. His mouth has become larger. His teeth stick out and look as though they were made of chalk. The flesh melts. The forehead bulges more prominently. The cheekbones protrude. The skeleton is working itself through. The eyes are already sunken in. In a couple of hours it will be over. He is not the first that I have seen thus, but we grew up together, and that always makes it a bit different. I have copied his essays. At school he used to wear a brown coat with a belt and shiny sleeves. He was the only one of us two who could do the giant's turn on the horizontal bar. His hair flew in his face like silk when he did it. Kantarek was proud of him, but he couldn't stand cigarettes. His skin was very white. He had something of the girl about him. I glance at my boots. They are big and clumsy. The breeches are tucked into them, and standing up one looks well built and powerful in these great drain pipes. But when we go bathing and strip, suddenly we have slender legs again and slight shoulders. We are no longer soldiers, but little more than boys. No one would believe that we could carry packs. It is a strange moment when you stand naked. Then we become civilians, and almost feel ourselves to be so. When bathing, Franz Kemmerich looked as slight and frail as a child. There he lies now. But why? The whole world ought to pass by this bed and say, "That is Franz Kemmerich, 19.5 years old. He doesn't want to die. Let him not die." My thoughts become confused. This atmosphere of carbolic and gangrene clogs the lungs. It is a thick gruel. It suffocates. It grows dark. Kemmerich's face changes color. It lifts from the pillow and is so pale that it gleams. The mouth moves slightly. I draw near to him. He whispers, "If you find my watch, send it home." I do not reply. It is no use anymore. No one can console him. I am wretched with hopelessness. This forehead, with its hollow temples, this mouth that now seems all teeth, this sharp nose, and the fat, weeping woman at home to whom I must write, if only the letter were sent off already. Hospital orderlies go to and fro with bottles and pails. One of them comes up, casts a glance at Kemmerich, and goes away again. You can see he is waiting. Apparently he wants the bed. I bend over Franz and talk to him as though that could save him. "Perhaps you will go to the convalescent home at Klosterberg, among the villas, Franz. Then you can look out from the window across the fields to the 2 trees on the horizon. It is the loveliest time of year now, when the corn ripens. At evening the fields in the sunlight look like mother of pearl, and the lane of poplars by Klosterbach, where we used to catch sticklebacks. You can build an aquarium again, and keep fish in it, and you can go without asking anyone. You can even play the piano if you want to." I lean down over his face, which lies in the shadow. He still breathes, lightly. His face is wet. He is crying. What a fine mess I have made of it with my foolish talk. "But Franz," I put my arm around his shoulder and put my face against his. "Will you sleep now?" He doesn't answer. The tears run down his cheeks. I would like to wipe them away, but my handkerchief is too dirty. An hour passes. I sit tensely and watch every moment in case he may perhaps say something. What if he were to open his mouth and cry out? But he only weeps, his head turned aside. He does not speak of his mother or his brothers and sisters. He says nothing. All that lies behind him. He is entirely alone now with his little life of 19 years and cries because it leaves him. This is the most disturbing and hardest parting that I have ever seen, although it was pretty bad too with Tijin, who called for his mother, a big bear of a fellow who, with wild eyes full of terror, held off the doctor from his bed with a dagger until he collapsed. Suddenly Kemmerich groans and begins to gurgle. I jump up, stumble outside, and demand, "Where's the doctor? Where's the doctor?" As I catch sight of the white apron, I seize hold of it. "Come, quick! Franz Kemmerich is dying!" He frees himself and asks an orderly standing by, Which will that be? He says bed 26, amputated thigh. He sniffs. How should I know anything about it? I've amputated 5 legs today. He shoves me away, says the hospital orderly, you see to it, and hurries off to the operating room. I tremble with rage as I go along with the orderly. The man looks at me and says, one operation after another since 5 o'clock this morning. You know, today alone there have been 16 deaths. Yours is the 17th. There will probably be 20 altogether. I become faint all at once. I cannot do any more. I won't revile any more. It is senseless. I could drop down and never rise up again. We are by Kemerick's bed. He is dead. The face is still wet from the tears. The eyes are half open and yellow like old horn buttons. The orderly pokes me in the ribs. Are you taking his things with you? I nod. He goes on. We must take him away at once. We want the bed. Outside they are lying on the floor. I collect Kemerick's things and untie his identification disc. The orderly asks about the paybook. I say that it is probably in the orderly room, and go. Behind me they are already hauling Franz onto a waterproof sheet. Outside the door I am aware of the darkness and the wind as a deliverance. I breathe as deep as I can, and feel the breeze in my face, warm and soft as never before. Thoughts of girls and flowery meadows, of white clouds suddenly come into my head. My feet begin to move forward in my boots. I go quicker. I run. Soldiers pass by me. I hear their voices without understanding. The earth is streaming with forces which pour into me through the soles of my feet. The night crackles electrically. The front thunders like a concert of drums. My limbs move supplely. I feel my joints strong. I breathe the air deeply. The night lives. I live. I feel a hunger greater than comes from the belly alone. Mueller stands in front of the hut waiting for me. I give him the boots. We go in and he tries them on. They fit well. He roots among his supplies and offers me a fine piece of saveloy. With it goes hot tea and rum. Chapter 3. Reinforcements have arrived. The vacancies have been filled and the sacks of straw in the huts are already booked. Some of them are old hands, but there are 25 men of a later draft from the base. They are about 2 years younger than us. Kropp nudges me. Seen the infants? I nod. We stick out our chests, shave in the open, shove out our hands in our pockets, inspect the recruits, and feel ourselves Stone Age veterans. Kaczynski joins us. We stroll past the horse boxes and go over to the reinforcements, who are already being issued with gas masks and coffee. Long time since we've had anything decent to eat, eh? Cat asks one of the youngsters. He grimaces. For breakfast, turnip bread. Lunch, turnip stew. Supper, turnip cutlets and turnip salad. Cat gives a knowing whistle. Bread made of turnips? You've been in luck. It's nothing new for it to be made of sawdust. But what do you say to hardicot beans? Have some. The youngster turns red. You can't kid me. Kaczynski merely says, Fetch your mess tin. We follow curiously. He takes us to a tub beside his straw sack. Sure enough, it is half full of beef and beans. Kaczynski plants himself in front of it like a general and says, Sharp eyes and light fingers. That's what the Prussians say. We are surprised. Great guts, Cat. How did you come by that? I ask him. Ginger was glad I took it. I gave him 3 pieces of parachute silk for it. Cold beans taste fine, too. Patronizingly, he gives the younger a portion and says, Next time you come with your mess tin, have a cigar or a chew of tobacco in your other hand. Get me? Then he turns to us. You get off scot-free, of course. We couldn't do without Kaczynski. He has a 6th sense. There are such people everywhere, but one does not appreciate it at first. Every company has 1 or 2. Kaczynski is the smartest I know. By trade he is a cobbler, I believe. But that hasn't anything to do with it. He understands all trades. It's a good thing to be friends with him, as Kropp and I are. And High Vestas, too, more or less. But Haya is rather the executive arm, operating under Cat's orders when things come to blows. For that, he has his qualifications. For example, we land at night in some entirely unknown spot, a sorry hole that has been eaten out to the very walls. We are quartered in a small, dark factory adapted to the purpose. There are beds in it, or rather bunks, a couple of wooden beams over which wire netting is stretched. Wire netting is hard, and there is nothing to put on it. Our waterproof sheets are too thin. We use our blankets to cover ourselves. Cat looks at the place and then says to High Vestus, "Come with me." They go off to explore. Half an hour later they are back again with arms full of straw. Cat has found a horse box with straw in it. Now we might sleep if we weren't so terribly hungry. Krop asks an artilleryman who has been some time in this neighborhood, "Is there a canteen anywhereabouts?" "Is there a what?" He laughs. "There's nothing to be had here. You won't find so much as a crust of bread here." "Aren't there any inhabitants here at all, then?" He spits. "Yes, a few, but they hang around the cookhouse and beg." "That's a bad business." "Then we'll have to pull our own belts and wait till the rations come up in the morning." But I see Cat has put on his cap. "Where to, Cat?" I ask. "Just to explore the place a bit." He strolls off. The artilleryman grins scornfully. "Go ahead and explore, but don't strain yourself in carrying what you find." Disappointed, we lie down and consider whether we couldn't have a go at the iron rations. But it's too risky. So we try to get a wink of sleep. Krop divides a cigarette and hands me half. Chadden gives an account of his national dish, broad beans and bacon. He despises it when not flavored with bog myrtle, and, for God's sakes, let it all be cooked together, not the potatoes, the beans, and the bacon separately. Someone growls that he will pound Chadden into bog myrtle if he doesn't shut up. Then all become quiet in the big room. Only the candle flickers from the necks of a couple bottles, and the artilleryman spitting every now and then. We are just dozing off when the door opens and Cat appears. I think I must be dreaming. He has 2 loaves of bread under his arms and a blood-stained bag full of horseflesh in his hand. The artilleryman's pipe drops from his mouth. He feels the bread. Real bread. By God, and still hot too? Cat gives no explanation. He has the bread. The rest doesn't matter. I'm sure if he were planted down in the middle of the desert, in half an hour he would have gathered together a supper of roast meat, dates, and wine. "Cut some wood," he says curtly to Haya. Then he hauls out a frying pan from under his coat, and a handful of salt as well as a lump of fat from his pocket. He has thought of everything. Haya makes a fire on the floor. It lights up the empty room of the factory. We climb out of bed. The artilleryman hesitates. He wonders whether to praise Cat and so perhaps gain a little for himself, but Kaczynski doesn't even see him. He might as well be thin air. He goes off cursing. Cat knows the way to roast horseflesh so that it's tender. It shouldn't be put straight into the pan. That makes it tough. It should be boiled, first in a little water. With our knives, we squat around in a circle and fill our bellies. That is Cat. If for 1 hour in a year something eatable were to be had in some one place only, within that hour, as if moved by a vision, he would put on his cap, go out and walk directly there, as though following a compass, and find it. He finds everything. If it is cold, a small stove and wood, hay and straw, a table and chairs, but above all, food. It is uncanny. One would think he conjured it out of the air. His masterpiece was 4 boxes of lobsters. Admittedly, we would rather have had good beefsteak. We have settled ourselves on the sunny side of the hut. There is a smell of tar, of summer, and of sweaty feet. Cat sits beside me. He likes to talk. Today we have done an hour's saluting drill because Chadden failed to salute a major smartly enough. Cat can't get it out of his head. "You take it from me, we are losing the war because we can salute too well," he says. Krop stalks up, with his breeches rolled up and his feet bare. He lays out his washed socks to dry on the grass. Cat turns his eyes to heaven, lets off a mighty fart, and says meditatively, "Every little bean must be heard as well as seen." The two begin to argue. At the same time, they lay a bottle of beer on the result of an air fight that's going on above us. Kaczynski won't budge from the opinion which is an old front hog. He rhymes, "Give 'em all the same grub and all the same pay, and the war would be over and done in a day." Krop, on the other hand, is the thinker. He proposes that a declaration of war should be a kind of proper festival, with entrance tickets and bands, like a bullfight. Then in the arena, the ministers and generals of the two countries, dressed in bathing drawers and armed with clubs, can have it out among themselves. Whoever survives, his country wins. That would be much simpler and more just than this arrangement, where the wrong people do the fighting. The subject is dropped, then the conversation turns to drill. A picture comes before me, burning midday in the barrack yard. The heat hangs over the square. The barracks are deserted. Everything sleeps. All one hears is the drummers practicing. They have installed themselves somewhere and practice brokenly, dully, monotonously. What a concord! Midday heat, barrack square, and drummers beating. The windows of the barracks are empty and dark. From some of them trousers are hanging to dry. The rooms are cool, and one looks toward them longingly. Oh, dark, musty platoon huts, with the iron bedsteads, the checkered bedding, the lockers and the stools. Even you can become an object of desire. Out here you have a faint resemblance to home, your rooms full of the smell of stale food, sleep, smoke, and clothes. Kaczynski paints it all in lively colors. What would we not give to be able to return to it? Farther back than that our thoughts dare not go. Those early morning hours of instruction. What are the parts of the 98 rifle? The midday hours of physical training. Pianist forward. By the right, quick march. Report to the cookhouse for the potato peeling. We indulge in reminiscences. Kropp laughs suddenly and says, "Charge at Luna." That was our corporal's favorite game. Luna is a railway junction. In order that our fellows going on shouldn't get lost there, Himmelstrasse used to practice the change in the barrack room. We had to learn that at Luna, to reach the branch line, we must pass through a subway. The beds represented the subway, and each man stood at attention on the left side of his bed. Then came the command, "Charge at Luna!" And like lightning, everyone scrambled under the bed to the opposite side. We practiced this for hours on end. Meanwhile, the German aeroplane has been shot down. Like a comet, it's burst into a streamer of smoke and falls headlong. Kropp has lost a bottle of beer. Disgruntled, he counts out the money from his wallet. Surely Himmelstrasse was a very different fellow as a postman, say I, after Albert's disappointment has subsided. Then how does it come that he's such a bully as a drill sergeant? The question revives Kropp, more particularly as he hears there's no more beer in the canteen. It's not only Himmelstrasse. There are lots of them. As sure as they get a stripe or a star, they become different men. Just as though they'd swallow concrete. That's the uniform, I suggest. Roughly speaking, it is, says Cat, and prepares for a long speech. But the root of the matter lies somewhere. For instance, if you train a dog to eat potatoes and then afterwards put a piece of meat in front of him, he'll snap at it. It's his nature. And if you give a man a little bit of authority, he behaves the same way. He snaps at it too. The things are precisely the same. In himself, man is essentially a beast, only he butters it over like a slice of bread with a little decorum. The army is based on that. One man must always have power over the other. The mischief is merely that each one has much too much power. A non-com can torment a private, a lieutenant a non-com, a captain a lieutenant, until he goes mad. And because they know they can, they all soon acquire the habit more or less. Take a simple case. We are marching back from the parade ground, dog-tired. Then comes the order to sing. We sing spiritlessly, for it is all we can do to trudge along with our rifles. At once the company is turned about and has to do another hour's drill as punishment. On the march back, the order to sing is given again, and once more we start. Now what's the use of all that? It's simply that the company commander's head has been turned by having so much power, and nobody blames him. On the contrary, he is praised for being strict. That, of course, is only a trifling instance. But it holds also in a very different affairs. Now I ask you, let a man be whatever you like in peacetime. What occupation is there in which you can behave like that without getting a crack on the nose? He can only do that in the army. It goes to the heads of them all, you see. And the more insignificant a man has to be in civil life, the worse it takes him. They say, of course, there must be discipline. Ventures Kropp meditatively. True, growls Cat, they always do. And it may be so. Still, it oughtn't to become an abuse. But you try to explain that to a blacksmith or a laborer or a workman. You try to make that clear to a peasant, and that's what most of them are here. All he sees is that he has been put through the mill and sent to the front, but he knows well enough what he must do and what not. It's simply amazing, I tell you, that the ordinary Tommy sticks it all up here in the front line. Simply amazing. No one protests. Everyone knows that drill ceases only in the front line and begins again a few miles behind. With all the absurdities of saluting and parade, it is an iron law that the soldier must be employed under every circumstance. Here Chadden comes up with a flushed face. He is so excited that he stutters. Beaming with satisfaction, he stammers out, "Himmelstoss is on his way. He's coming to the front." Chadden has a special grudge against Himmelstoss because of the way he educated him in the barracks. Chadden wets his bed. He does it at night in his sleep. Himmelstoss maintained that it was a sheer laziness and invented a method worthy of himself for curing Chadden. He hunted up another piss-a-bed, named Kinderwarte, from a neighboring unit, and quartered him with Chadden. In the huts there were the usual bunks, one above the other in pairs, with mattress or wire netting. Himmelstoss put these two so that one occupied the upper and the other the lower bunk. The man underneath, of course, had a vile time. The next night they were changed over and the lower one put on the top so that he could retaliate. That was Himmelstoss's system of self-education. The idea was low but not ill-conceived. Unfortunately, it accomplished nothing because the first assumption was wrong. It was not laziness in either of them. Anyone who looked at their sallow skin could see that. The matter ended in one of them always sleeping on the floor, where he frequently caught cold. Meanwhile, Hi sits down beside us. He winks at me and rubs his paws thoughtfully. We once spent the finest day of our army life together, the day before we left for the front. We had been allotted to one of the recently formed regiments, but were first to be sent back for equipment to the garrison, not to the reinforcement depot, of course, but to another barracks. We were due to leave the next morning early. In the evening we prepared ourselves to square accounts with Himmelstoss. We had sworn for weeks past to do this. Kropp had even gone so far to propose entering the postal service in peacetime in order to be Himmelstoss's superior when he became a postman again. He reveled in the thought of how he would grind him. It was this that made it impossible for him to crush us all together. We always reckoned that later, at the end of the war, we would have our revenge on him. In the meantime, we decided to give him a good hiding. What could he do to us anyway if he didn't recognize us and we left early in the morning? We knew which pub he used to visit every evening. Returning to the barracks, he had to go along a dark, uninhabited road. There we waited for him behind a pile of stones. I had a bed cover with me. We trembled with suspense, hoping he would be alone. At last we heard his footstep, which was recognized easily. So often had we heard it in the mornings as the door flew open and he bawled, "Get up!" "Alone?" whispered Kropp. "Alone." I slipped round the pile of stones with Chadden. Himmelstoss seemed a little elevated. He was singing. His belt buckle gleamed. He came on unsuspectingly. We seized the bed cover, made a quick leap, threw it over his head from behind, and pulled it around him so that he stood there in a white sack, unable to raise his arms. The singing stopped. The next moment Hivestus was there, and spreading his arms he shoved us back in order to be first in. He put himself in position with evident satisfaction, raised his arm like a single mast, and his hand like a coal shovel, and fetched such a blow on the white sack as would have felled an ox. Himmelstoss was thrown down. He rolled 5 yards and started to yell, but we were prepared for that and had brought a cushion. Hi squatted down, laid the cushion on his knees, felt where Himmelstoss's head was and pressed it down on the pillow. Immediately his voice was muffled. Hi let him get a gasp of air every so often, when he would give a mighty yell that was immediately hushed. Chadden unbuttoned Himmelstoss's braces and pulled down his trousers, holding the whip meantime in his teeth. Then he stood up and set to work. It was a wonderful picture. Himmelstoss on the ground, Hi bending over him with a fiendish grin and his mouth open with bloodlust. Himmelstoss's head on his knees. Then the convulsed striped drawers. The knock-knees, executing at every blow most original movements in the lowered breeches, and lowering over them like a woodcutter, the indefatigable Chadden. In the end we had to drag him away to get our turn. Finally, high stood Himmelstas on his feet again and gave one last personal remonstrance. As he stretched out his right arm, preparatory to giving him a box on the ear, he looked as if he were going to reach down a star. Himmelstas toppled over. High stood him up again, made ready, and fetched him a second well-aimed beauty with the left hand. Himmelstas yelled and made off on all fours. His striped postman's backside gleamed in the moonlight. We disappeared at full speed. High looked round once again, and said wrathfully, satisfied, and rather mysteriously, "Revenge is black pudding." Himmelstas ought to have been pleased. His saying that we should each educate one another had borne fruit for himself. We had become successful students of this method. He never discovered whom he had to thank for the business. At any rate, he scored a bed cover out of it, for when we returned a few hours later to look for it, it was no longer to be found. That evening's work made us more or less content to leave next morning, and an old buffer was pleased to describe us as young heroes. Chapter 4. We have to go up on wiring fatigue. The motor lorries roll up after dark. We climb in. It is a warm evening, and the twilight seems like a canopy under whose shelter we feel drawn together. Even the stingy Chaden gives me a cigarette and then a light. We stand jammed in together, shoulder to shoulder. There is no room to sit, but we do not expect that. Mueller is in a good mood for once. He is wearing his new boots. The engines drone, the lorries bump and rattle. The roads are worn and full of holes. We dare not show a light, so we lurch along and are often almost pitched out. That does not worry us, however. It can happen if it likes. A broken arm is better than a hole in the guts, and many a man would be thankful enough for such a chance of finding his way home again. Beside us stream the munition columns in long files. They are making the pace. They overtake us continually. We joke with them, and they answer back. A wall becomes visible. It belongs to a house which lies on the side of the road. I suddenly prick up my ears. Am I deceived? Again I hear distinctly the cackle of geese. A glance at Kaczynski. A glance from him to me. We understand one another. Cat, I hear some aspirants for the frying pan over there. He nods. It will be attended to when we come back. I have their number. Of course Cat has their number. He knows all about every leg of goose within a radius of 15 miles. The lorries arrive at the artillery lines. The gun emplacements are camouflaged with bushes against aerial observation, and look like a kind of military feast of the tabernacles. These branches might seem gay and cheerful were not cannon embowered there. The air becomes acrid with the smoke of the guns and the fog. The fumes of powder taste bitter on the tongue. The roar of the guns makes our lorry stagger. The reverberation rolls raging away to the rear. Everything quakes. Our faces change imperceptibly. We are not, indeed, in the front line, but only in the reserves. Yet in every face can read, "This is the front. Now we are within its embrace." It is not fear. Men who have been up as often as we have become thick-skinned. Only the young recruits are agitated. Cat explains to them, "That was a 12-inch. You can tell by the report. Now you'll hear the burst." But the muffled thud of the burst does not reach us. It is swallowed up in the general murmur of the front. Cat listens. There'll be a bombardment tonight. We all listen. The front is restless. "The Tommies are firing already," says Krupp. The shelling can be heard distinctly. It is the English batteries to the right of our section. They are beginning an hour too soon. According to us, they start punctually at 10 o'clock. "What's got them?" says Mueller. "Their clocks must be fast." There'll be a bombardment, I tell you. I can feel it in my bones. Cat shrugs his shoulders. 3 guns open fire close beside us. The burst of flame shoots across the fog. The guns roar and boom. We shiver and are glad to think that we shall be back in the huts early in the morning. Our faces are neither paler nor more flushed than usual. They are not more tense nor more flabby, and yet they are changed. We feel that in our blood a contact has shot home, that in no figure of speech it is fact. It is the front, the consciousness of the front, that makes this contact. The moment that the first shells whistle over and the air is rent with the explosions, there is suddenly in our veins, in our hands, in our eyes, a tense waiting, a watching, a heightening alertness, a strange sharpening of the senses. The body with one bound is full of readiness. It often seems to me as though it were the vibrating, shuddering air that was a noiseless leap springs upon us, or as though the front itself emitted an electric current which awakened unknown nerve centers. Every time it is the same. We start out for the front plain soldiers, either cheerful or gloomy. Then come the first gun emplacements, and every word of our speech has a new ring. When Cat stands in front of the hut and says, "There'll be a bombardment," that is merely his own opinion. But if he says it here, then the sentence has the sharpness of a bayonet in the moonlight. It cuts clean through the thought. It thrusts nearer and speaks to this unknown thing that is awakened in us, a dark meaning. There'll be a bombardment. Perhaps it is our inner and most secret life that shivers and falls on guard. To me the front is a mysterious whirlpool. Though I am in still water far away from the center, I feel the whirl of the vortex sucking me slowly, irresistibly, inescapable into itself. From the earth, from the air, sustaining forces pour into us, mostly from the earth. To no man does the earth mean so much as to the soldier. When he presses himself down upon her long and powerfully, when he buries his face and his limbs deep in her from the fear of death by shell fire, then she is his only friend, his brother, his mother. He stifles his terror and his cries in her silence and her security. She shelters him, and realizes him for 10 seconds to live, to run, 10 seconds of life, receives him again, and often forever. Earth! 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 Earth with thy folds and hollows and holes into which a man may fling himself and crouch down, in the spasm of terror, under the hailing of annihilation, in the bellowing death of the explosions. O earth, thou grantest us the great resisting surge of new-won life. Our being, almost utterly carried away by the fury of the storm, streams back through our hands from thee, and we, thy redeemed ones, bury ourselves in thee, and through the long minutes in a mute agony of hope bite into thee with our lips. At the sound of the first droning of the shells we rush back, at one part of our being, 1,000 years. By the animal instinct that is awakened in us we are led and protected. It is not conscious. It is far quicker, much more sure, less fallible than consciousness. One cannot explain it. A man is walking along without thought or heed. Suddenly he throws himself down on the ground, and a storm of fragment flies harmlessly over him. Yet he cannot remember either to have heard the shell coming or to have thought of flinging himself down. But had he not abandoned himself to the impulse, he would now be a heap of mangled flesh. It is this other, this second sight in us, that has thrown us to the ground and saved us, without our knowing how. If it were not so, there would not be one man alive from Flanders to the Vosges. We march up, moodier, good-tempered soldiers. We reach the zone where the front begins and become on the instant human animals. An indigent-looking wood receives us. We pass by the soup kitchens. Under cover of the wood we climb out. The lorries turn back. They are to collect us again in the morning before dawn. Mist and the smoke of guns lie breast-high over the fields. The moon is shining. Along the road troops file. Their helmets gleam softly in the moonlight. The heads and the rifles stand out above the white mist. Nodding heads, rocking barrels. Farther on the mist ends. Here the heads become figures. Coat, trousers, and boots appear out of the mist as from a milky pool. They become a column. The column marches on straight ahead. The figures resolve themselves into a block. Individuals are no longer recognizable. The dark wedge presses onward, fantastically topped by the heads and the weapons floating on the milky pool. A column. Not men at all. Guns and munition wagons are moving along a crossroad. The backs of the horses shine in the moonlight. Their movements are beautiful. They toss their heads and their eyes gleam. The guns and the wagons float past the dim background of the moonlit landscape. The riders in their steel helmets resemble knights of a forgotten time. It is strangely beautiful and arresting. We push on to the pioneer dump. Some of our load are shoulders with pointed and twisted iron stakes. Others thrust smooth iron rods through rolls of wire and go off with them. The burdens are awkward and heavy. The ground becomes more broken. From ahead come warnings. Look out, deep shell hole on the left. Mine trenches. Our eyes peer out. Our feet and our sticks feel in front of us before they take the weight off the body. Suddenly the line halts. I bump my face against the roll of wire carried by the man in front and curse. There are some shell-smashed lorries in the road. Another order. Cigarettes and pipes out. We are near the line. In the meantime, it has become pitch dark. We skirt a small wood and then have the front line immediately before us. An uncertain red glow spreads along the skyline from one to the other. It is in perpetual movement, punctuated with the burst of flame from the nozzles of the batteries. Balls of light rise up high above it, silver and red spheres which explode and rain down in showers of red, white, and green stars. French rockets go up, which unfold a sick parachute to the air and drift slowly down. They light up everything as bright as day. Their light shines on us as we see our shadows sharply outlined on the ground. They hover for the space of a minute before they burn out. Immediately fresh ones shoot up in the sky, and again green, red, and blue stars. Bombardment, says Cat. The thunder of the guns swells into a single heavy roar, and then breaks up again into separate explosions. The dry bursts of the machine guns rattle. Above us the air teems with invisible swift movement, with howls, pippings, and hisses. They are smaller shells, and amongst them, booming through the night like an organ, go the great coal boxes and the heavies. They have a hoarse, distant bellow like a rutting stag, and make their way high above the howl and whistle of the smaller shells. It reminds me of a flock of wild geese when I hear them. Last autumn, the wild geese flew day after day across the path of the shells. The searchlights begin to sweep the dark sky. They slide along it like gigantic tapering rulers. One of them pauses and quivers a little. Immediately a second is beside him. A black insect is caught between them and tries to escape. The airman. It hesitates, is blinded, and falls. At regular intervals we ram in the iron stakes. 2 men hold a roll and the other spool off the barbed wire. It is that awful stuff with close-set long spikes. I am not used to unrolling it and tear my hand. After a few hours it is done, but there is still some time before the lorries come. Most of us lie down and sleep. I try also, but it has turned too chilly. We know we are not far from the sea because we are constantly waked by the cold. Once I fall fast asleep, then wakening suddenly with a start, I do not know where I am. I see the stars, I see the rockets, and for a moment have the impression that I have fallen asleep at a garden fete. I don't know whether it is morning or evening. I lie in the pale cradle of the twilight and listen for soft words, which will come, soft and near. Am I crying? I put my hand to my eyes. It is fantastic. Am I a child? Smooth skin. It lasts only a second, then I recognize the silhouette of Kaczynski, the old veteran. He sits quietly and smokes his pipe, a covered pipe, of course. When he sees I am awake, he says, "That gave you a fright." It was only a nose cap. It landed in the bushes over there. I sit up. I feel myself strangely alone. His good Cat is there. He gazes thoughtfully at the front and says, "Mighty fine fireworks if they weren't so dangerous." One lands behind us. Some recruits jumped up terrified. A couple of minutes later, another comes over. Nearer this time. Cat knocks out his pipe. We're in for it. Then it begins in earnest. We crawl away as well as we can in our haste. The next lands fair amongst us. 2 fellows cry out. Green rockets shoot up on the skyline. Barrage. The mud flies high. Fragments whiz past. The crack of the guns is heard long after the roar of the explosions. Besides us lie a fair-headed recruit in utter terror. He has buried his face in his hands. His helmet has fallen off. I fish hold of it and try to put it back on his head. He looks up, pushes the helmet off, and like a child creeps under my arm, his head close to my breast. The little shoulders heave. Shoulders just like Kemmerich's. I let him be. So that the helmet should be of some use, I stick it on his behind, not for a jest, but out of consideration, since that is his highest part. And though there is plenty of meat there, a shot in it can be damned painful. Besides, a man has to lie for months on his belly in the hospital, and afterwards he would almost be sure to have a limp. It's got someone pretty badly. Cries are heard between the explosions. At last it grows quiet. The fire is lifted over us, and is now dropping on the reserves. We risk a look. Red rockets shoot up to the sky. Apparently there's an attack coming. Where we are, it is still quiet. I sit up and shake the recruit by the shoulder. All over, kid. It's all right this time. He looks round him dazedly. You'll get used to it soon, I tell him. He sees his helmet and puts it on. Gradually he comes to. Then suddenly he turns fiery red and looks confused. Cautiously he reaches his hand to his behind and looks at me dismayedly. I understand at once. Gun-shy. That wasn't the reason I had struck his helmet over it. That's no disgrace, I reassure him. Many's the man before you has had his pants full after the first bombardment. Go behind that bush over there and throw your underpants away. Get along. He goes off. Things become quieter, but the cries do not cease. What's up, Albert? I ask. A couple of columns over there got it in the neck. The cries continue. It is not men. They could not cry so terribly. Wounded horses, says Cat. It's unendurable. It is the moaning of the world. It is the martyred creation, wild with anguish, filled with terror and groaning. We are pale. Dietering stands up. God, for God's sake, shoot them! He is a farmer and very fond of horses. It gets under his skin. Then, as if deliberately, the fire dies down again. The screaming of the beasts becomes louder. One can no longer distinguish whence in this now quiet silvery landscape it comes. Ghostly, invisible, it is everywhere. Between heaven and earth it rolls on immeasurably. Dietering raves and yells out, Shoot them, can't you? Damn you again! They must look after the men first, says Cat quietly. We stand up and try to see where it is. If we could only see the animals, we should be able to endure it better. Mueller has a pair of glasses. We see a dark group, bearers with stretchers, and larger black clumps moving about. Those are the wounded horses, but not all of them. Some gallop away in the distance, fall down, and then run on farther. The belly of one is ripped open, the guts trail out. He becomes tangled in them and falls. Then he stands up again. Dietering raises up his gun and aims. Cat hits it in the air. Are you mad? Dietering trembles and throws his rifle on the ground. We sit up and hold our ears. But this appalling noise, these groans and screams penetrate. They penetrate everywhere. We can bear almost anything. But now the sweat breaks out on us. We must get up and run no matter where. But where these cries can no longer be heard. And it is not men, only horses. From the dark group stretchers move off again. Then single shots crack out. The black heap convulses and then sinks down. At last! But still it is not the end. The men cannot overtake the wounded beasts which fly in their pain, their wide-open mouths full of anguish. One of the men goes down on one knee. A shot. One horse drops. Another. The last one props itself on its forelegs and drags itself around in a circle like a merry-go-round. Squatting, it drags round in circles on its stiffened forelegs. Apparently its back is broken. The soldier runs up and shoots it. Slowly, humbly, it sinks to the ground. We take our hands from our ears. The cries are silenced. Only a long-drawn, dying sigh still hangs on the air. Then only again the rockets, the singing of the shells and the stars there, most strange. Dietering walks up and down, cursing, like to know what harm they've done. He returns to it once again. His voice is agitated. It sounds almost dignified as he says, I tell you it is the vilest baseness to use horses in the war. We go back. It is time we return to the lorries. The sky has become brighter. 3 o'clock in the morning. The breeze is fresh and cool. The pale hour makes our faces look gray. We trudge onward in single file through the trenches and shell holes and come again to the zone of mist. Kaczynski is restive. That's a bad sign. What's up, Cat? Says Kropp. I wish I were back home. Home, he means the huts. We'll soon be out of it, Cat. He is nervous. I don't know. We come to the communication trench and then to the open fields. The little wood reappears. We know every foot of ground here. There's the cemetery with the mounds and the black crosses. The moment it breaks out behind us, swells, roars, and thunders. We duck down. A cloud of flames shoots up 100 yards ahead of us. The next minute, under a second explosion, part of the wood rises slowly in the air. 3 or 4 trees sail up and then crash to pieces. The shells begin to hiss like safety valves. Heavy fire. Take cover! Yells somebody. Cover! The fields are flat. The wood is too distant and dangerous. The only cover is the graveyard and the mounds. We stumble across in the dark, and as though he had been spat, there every man lies glued behind a mound. Not a moment too soon. The dark goes mad. It heaves and raves. Darkness blacker than the night rush on us, with giant strides, over us and away. The flames of the explosions light up the graveyard. There is no escape anywhere. By the light of the shells, I try to get a view of the fields. They are a surging sea. Daggers of flame from the explosions leap up like fountains. It is impossible for anyone to break through it. The woods vanish. It is pounded, crushed, torn to pieces. We must stay here in the graveyard. The earth bursts before us. It rains clods. I feel a smack. My sleeve is torn away by a splinter. I shut my fist. No pain. Still, that does not reassure me. Wounds don't hurt till afterwards. I feel the arm all over. It is grazed but sound. Now a crack on the skull. I begin to lose consciousness. Like lightning, the thought comes to me. Don't faint. I sink down in the black broth and immediately come up to the top again. A splinter slashes into my helmet, but has already traveled so far that it does not go through. I wipe the mud out of my eyes. A hole is torn up in front of me. Shells hardly ever land in the same hole twice. I'll get into it. With one lunge, I shoot as flat as a fish over the ground. There it whistles again. Quickly, I crouch together, claw for cover, feel something on the left, shove in beside it. It gives way. I groan. The earth leaps. The blast thunders in my ears. I creep under the yielding thing, cover myself with it, draw it over me. It is wood, cloth, cover, miserable cover against the whizzing splinters. I open my eyes. My fingers grasp a sleeve, an arm. A wounded man? I yell to him. No answer. A dead man. My hand gropes further. Splinters of wood. Now I remember again that we are lying in the graveyard. But the shelling is stronger than everything. It wipes out the sensibilities. I merely crawl still farther under the coffin. It shall protect me, though death himself lies in it. Before me gapes the shell hole. I grasp it with my eyes, as with fists. With one leap, I must be in it. There! I get a smack in the face. A hand clamps onto my shoulder. Has the dead man waked up? The hand shakes me. I turn my head. In the second of light, I stare into the face of Kaczynski. He has his mouth wide open and is yelling. I hear nothing. He rattles me, comes nearer. In a momentary lull, his voice reaches me. Gas! 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 Put it on! I grab for my gas mask. Some distance from me there lies someone. I think of nothing but this. That fellow there must know. Gas! Gas! I call. I lean toward him. I swipe at him with the satchel. He doesn't see. Once again. Again. He merely ducks. It is the recruit. I look at Cat desperately. He has his mask on. I pull out mine too. My helmet falls to one side. It slips over my face. I reach the man. His satchel is on the side nearest me. I seize the mask, pull it over his head. He understands. I let go and with the jump drop into the shell hole. The dull thud of the gas shells mingles with the crashes of the light explosives. A bell sounds between the explosions, gongs and metal clappers warning everyone. Gas! 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 Someone plumps down behind me. Another. I wipe the goggles on my mask clear of the moist breath. It is Cat, Krupp, and someone else. All four of us lie there in heavy, watchful suspense, and breathe as lightly as possible. These first minutes with the mask decide between life and death. Is it airtight? I remember the awful sights in the hospital. The gas patients who in day-long suffocation cough up their burnt lungs in clots. Cautiously, the mouth applied to the valve, I breathe. The gas still creeps over the ground and sinks into all hollows. Like a big soft jellyfish it floats into our shell hole and lolls there obscenely. I nudge Cat. It is better to crawl out and lie on top than to stay where the gas collects most. But we don't get as far as that. A second bombardment begins. It is no longer as though shells roared. It is the earth itself raging. With a crash, something black bears down on us. It lands close beside us. A coffin thrown up. I see Cat move, and I crawl across. The coffin has hit the fourth man in our hole on his outstretched arm. He tries to tear off his gas mask with the other hand. Krupp seizes him just in time, twists the hand sharply behind his back, and holds it fast. Cat and I proceed to free the wounded man. The coffin lid is loose and bursts open. We are easily able to pull it off. We toss the corpse out. It slides down to the bottom of the shell hole. Then we try to loosen the underpart. Fortunately, the man swoons and Krop is able to help us. We no longer have to be careful, but work away till the coffin gives with a sigh before the spade that we have dug in under it. It has grown lighter. Cat takes a piece of the lid, places it under the shattered arm, and we wrap all our bandages around it. For the moment, we can do no more. Inside the gas mask, my head booms and roars. It is nigh bursting. My lungs are tight. They breathe always the same hot, used-up air. The veins on my temples are swollen. I feel I am suffocating. A gray light filters through to us. I climb out over the edge of the shell hole. In the dirty twilight lies a leg torn clean off. The boot is quite whole. I take that all in at a glance. Now something stands up a few yards distant. I polish the windows. In my excitement, they are immediately dimmed again. I peered through them. The man there no longer wears his gas mask. I wait some seconds. He has not collapsed. He looks around and makes a few paces, rattling in my throat. I tear my mask off too and fall down. The air streams into me like cold water. My eyes are bursting. The wave sweeps over me and extinguishes me. The shelling has ceased. I turn towards the crater, beckoning to the others. They take off their masks. We lift up the wounded man, one taking his splintered arm, and so we stumble off hastily. The graveyard is a mass of wreckage. Coffins and corpses lie strewn about. They have been killed once again, but each of them that was flung up saved one of us. The hedge is destroyed. The rails of the light railway are torn up and rise stiffly in the air in great arches. Someone lies in front of us. We stop. Krop goes on alone with the wounded man. The man on the ground is a recruit. His hip is covered with blood. He is so exhausted that I feel for my water bottle, where I have rum and tea. Cat restrains my hand and stoops over him. "Where's it got you, comrade?" His eyes move. He is too weak to answer. We slit open his trousers carefully. He groans. "Gently, gently. It is much better." If he has been hit in the stomach, he oughtn't to drink anything. There's no vomiting. That's a good sign. We lay the hip bare. It is one mass of mincemeat and bone splinters. The joint has been hit. This lad won't walk any more. I wet his temples with a moistened finger and give him a swig. His eyes move again. We see now that the right arm is bleeding as well. Cat spreads our 2 wads of dressing as wide as possible, so that they will cover the wound. I look for something to bind loosely around it. We have nothing more, so I slip up the wounded man's trouser leg still farther in order to use a piece of his underpants as a bandage. But he is wearing none. I now look at him closely. He is the fair-haired boy of a little while ago. In the meantime, Cat has taken a bandage from a dead man's pocket, and we carefully bind the wound. I say to the youngster, who looks at us fixedly, "We are going for a stretcher now." Then he opens his mouth and whispers, "Stay here." "We'll be back again soon," says Cat. "We are only going to get a stretcher for you." We don't know if he understands. He whimpers like a child and plucks at us. "Don't go away." Cat looks around and whispers, "Shouldn't we just take a revolver and put an end to it?" The youngster will hardly survive the carrying, and at the most he will only last a few days. What he's gone through so far is nothing to what he's in for till he dies. Now he is numb and feels nothing. In an hour he will become one screaming bundle of intolerable pain. Every day that he can live he will be howling in torture. And to whom does it matter whether he has them or not? I nod. "Yes, Cat, we ought to put him out of his misery." He stands still a moment. He has made up his mind. We look round, but we are no longer alone. A little group is gathering. From the shell holes and trenches appear heads. We get a stretcher. Cat shakes his head. "Such a kid." He repeats it. "Young innocents." Our losses are less than was to be expected. 5 killed and 8 wounded. It was in fact quite a short bombardment. 2 of our dead lie in the upturned graves. We merely throw the earth in on them. We go back. We trot off silently in single file, one behind the other. The wounded are taken to the dressing station. The morning is cloudy. The bearers make a fuss about numbers and tickets. The wounded whimper. It begins to rain. An hour later we reach our lorries and climb in. There is more room now than there was. The rain becomes heavier. We take out waterproof sheets and spread them over our heads. The rain rattles down and flows off at the sides in streams. The lorries bump through the holes, and we rock to and fro in a half-sleep. 2 men in the front of the lorry have long forked poles. They watch for telephone wires which hang cross-wire over the road so low that they might easily pull our heads off. The two fellows take them at the right moment on their poles and lift them over behind us. We hear their call, "Mind wire," dip the knee in a half-sleep, and straighten up again. Monotonously the lorries sway, monotonously come the calls, monotonously falls the rain. It falls on our heads and on the heads of the dead up in the line, on the body of the little recruit with the wound that is so much too big for his hip. It falls on Kemmerich's grave. It falls in our hearts. An explosion sounds somewhere. We wince our eyes, become tense. Our hands are ready to vault over the side of the lorry into the ditch by the road. Nothing happens. Only the monotonous cry, "Mind wire." Our knees bend. We are again half asleep. Chapter 5. Killing each separate house is a tedious business when a man has hundreds. The little beasts are hard, and the everlasting cracking with one's fingernails very soon becomes wearisome. So Chadden has rigged up the lid of a boot-polished tin with a piece of wire over the lighted stump of a candle. The lice are simply thrown into the little pan, crack, and they are done for. We sit around with our shirts on our knees, our bodies naked to the warm sun, and our hands at work. Haya has a particularly fine brand of louse. They have a red cross on their heads. Each suggests that he brought them back from the hospital at Thorhout, where they attended personally on a surgeon general. He says he means to use the fat that slowly accumulates in the tin lid for polishing his boots, and roars with laughter for half an hour at his own joke. But he gets little response today. We are too preoccupied with another affair. The rumor has materialized. Himmelstrasse has come. He appeared yesterday. We've already heard the well-known voice. He seems to have overdone it with a couple of young recruits on the ploughed field at home, and unknown to him the son of the local magistrate was watching. That cooked his goose. He will get some surprises here. Chadden has been meditating for hours what to say to him. Haya gazes thoughtfully at his great paws and winks at me. The thrashing was the high-water mark of his life. He tells me he often dreams of it. Kropp and Müller are amusing themselves. From somewhere or other, probably the Pioneer cookhouse, Kropp has bagged for himself a mess tin full of beans. Müller squints hungrily into it, but checks himself and says, "Albert, what would you do if it were suddenly peacetime again?" "There won't be any peacetime," says Albert bluntly. "Well, but if," persists Müller. "What would you do?" "Clear out of this," growls Kropp. "Of course. And then what?" "Get drunk," says Albert. "Don't talk rot, I mean seriously." "So do I," says Kropp. "What else should a man do?" Cat becomes interested. He levies tribute on Kropp's tin of beans, swallows some, then considers for a while and says, "You might get drunk first, of course, but then you take the next train for home and mother. Peacetime, man, Albert." He fumbles in his oilcloth pocketbook for a photograph and suddenly shows it all around. "My old woman." Then he puts it back and swears. "Damned lousy war." "It's all very well for you to talk," I tell him. "You've a wife and children." "True," he nods. "And I have to see to it that they've something to eat." We laugh. "They won't lack for that, Cat. You'd scrounge it from somewhere." Müller is insatiable and gives himself no peace. He wakes Hiawatha's out of his dream. "Hiya, what would you do if it was peacetime?" "Give you a kick in the backside for the way you talk." I say, "How does it come about exactly?" "How does the cow shit come on the roof?" Retorts Müller laconically, and turns to Hiawatha's again. It is too much for Haya. He shakes his freckled head. "You mean when the war's over?" "Exactly, you've said it." "Well, there'd be women, of course, eh?" Haya licks his lips. "Sure. By Jove, yes," says Haya, his face melting. "Then I'd grab some good buxom dame, some real kitchen wench with plenty to get hold of, you know, and jump straight into bed. Just you think, boys, a real feather bed with a spring mattress. I wouldn't put trousers on again for a week." Everyone is silent. The picture is too good. Our flesh creeps. At last Müller pulls himself together and says, "And then what?" A pause. Then Haya explains rather awkwardly, "If I were a non-com, I'd stay with the Prussians and serve out my time." "Hey, you've got a screw loose, surely," I say. "Have you ever dug peat?" he retorts good-naturedly. "You try it." Then he pulls a spoon out of the top of his boot and reaches over into Kropp's mess tin. It can't be worse than digging trenches, I ventured. Haya chews and grins. It lasts longer, though, and there's no getting out of it either. But man, surely it's better at home. Some ways, says he, and with open mouth sinks into a daydream. You could see what he was thinking. There is the mean little hut on the moors, the hard work on the heath from morning till night in the heat, the miserable pay, the dirty laborer's clothes. In the army in peacetime you've nothing to trouble about, he goes on. Your food's found every day, or else you kick up a row. You've a bed, every week clean underwear like a perfect gent. You do your non-com's duty, you have a good suit of clothes, in the evening you're a free man and go off to the pub. Haya is extraordinarily set on his idea. He's in love with it, and when your 12 years are up, you get your pension and become the village bobby, and you can walk about the whole day. He's already sweating on it. And just you think how you'd be treated. Here a dram, there a pint, everybody wants to be well in with a bobby. You'll never be a non-com, though, Haya, interrupts Kat. Haya looks at him sadly and is silent. His thoughts still linger over the clear evenings in autumn, the Sundays in the heather, the village bells, the afternoons and evenings with the servant girls, the fried bacon and barley, the carefree hours in the alehouse. He can't part with all these dreams so abruptly. He merely growls, "What silly questions you do ask." He pulls his shirt over his head and buttons up his tunic. "What would you do, Chaden?" asks Krop. Chaden thinks of one thing only. See to it that Himmelstas didn't get past me. Apparently he would like most to have him in a cage and sail into him with a club every morning. To Krop he says warmly, "If I were in your place, I'd see to it that I became a lieutenant. Then you could grind him till the water in his backside boils." "And you, Dietering?" asks Mueller, like an inquisitor. He's a born schoolmaster with all his questions. Dietering is sparing with his words, but on this subject he speaks. He looks at the sky and says only the one sentence, "I would go straight on with the harvesting." Then he gets up and walks off. He's worried. His wife has to look after the farm. They've already taken away 2 more of his horses. Every day he reads the papers that come, to see whether it is raining in his little corner of Oldenburg. They haven't brought in the hay yet. At this moment Himmelstas appears. He comes straight up to our group. Chaden's face turns red. He stretches his length on the grass and shuts his eyes in excitement. Himmelstas is a little hesitant. His gait becomes slower. Then he marches up to us. No one makes any motion to stand up. Krop looks at him with interest. He continues to stand in front of us and wait. As no one says anything, he launches a "Well!" A couple seconds go by. Apparently Himmelstas doesn't quite know what to do. He would like most to set us all on the run again, but he seems to have learned already that the front line isn't a parade ground. He tries it on, though, and by addressing himself to one instead of to all of us, he hopes to get some response. Krop is nearest, so he favors him. "Well, you here too?" But Albert's no friend of his. "A bit longer than you, I fancy," he retorts. The red mustache twitches. "You don't recognize me any more, what?" Chaden now opens his eyes. "I do, though." Himmelstas turns to him. "Chaden, isn't it?" Chaden lifts his head. "And do you know what you are?" Himmelstas is disconcerted. "Since when have we become so familiar? I don't remember that we ever slept in the gutter together." He has no idea what to make of the situation. He didn't expect this open hostility. But he is on his guard. He has already had some rot dinned into him about getting a shot in the back. The question about the gutter makes Chaden so mad that he becomes almost witty. "No, you slept there by yourself." Himmelstas begins to boil, but Chaden gets in ahead of him. He must bring off his insult. "Wouldn't you like to know what you are? A dirty hound, that's what you are. I've been wanting to tell you that for a long time." The satisfaction on months shines in his dull pig's eye as he spits out, "Dirty hound." Himmelstas lets fly too now. "What's that? You muckrake? You dirty peat stealer? Stand up there. Bring your heels together when your superior officer speaks to you." Chaden waves him off. "You take a run and jump it yourself, Himmelstas." Himmelstas is a raging book of army regulations. The Kaiser couldn't be more insulted. "Chaden, I command you, as your superior officer, stand up." "Anything else you would like?" asks Chaden. "Will you obey my order or not?" Chaden replies, without knowing it, in the well-known classical phrase. At the same time, he ventilates his backside. "I'll have you court-martialed," storms Himmelstas. We watch him disappear in the direction of the orderly room. Haya and Chaden burst into a regular peat digger's bellow. Haya laughs so much that he dislocates his jaw, and suddenly stands there helpless with his mouth wide open. Albert has to put it back again by giving it a blow with his fist. Cat is troubled. If he reports you, it'll be pretty serious. Do you think he will? Asks Chawden. Sure to, I say. The least you'll get will be 5 days close arrest, says Cott. That doesn't worry Chawden. 5 days clink or 5 days rest. And if they send you to the fortress? Urges the thoroughgoing Mueller. Well, for the time being the war will be over so far as I'm concerned. Chawden is a cheerful soul. There aren't any worries for him. He goes off with Haya and Lear, so that they won't find him in the first flush of excitement. Mueller hasn't finished yet. He tackles Kropp again. Albert, if you were really at home now, what would you do? Kropp is contented now and more accommodating. How many of us were there in the class exactly? We count up. Out of 20, 7 are dead, 4 wounded, 1 in a madhouse. That makes 12. 3 of them are lieutenants, says Mueller. Do you think they would still let Kentrick sit on them? We guess not. We wouldn't let ourselves be sat on, for that matter. What do you mean by the threefold theme in William Tell? Says Kropp reminiscently, and roars with laughter. What was the purpose of the Poetic League of Göttingen? Asked Mueller suddenly and earnestly. How many children has Charles the Bald? I interrupt gently. You'll never make anything of your life, Baumer, croaks Mueller. What was the Battle of Zana? Kropp wants to know. You lack the studious mind, Kropp. Sit down. 3 minus, I say. What offices did Lycurgus consider the most important for the state? Asks Mueller, pretending to take off his pince-nez. Does it go, we Germans fear God and none else in the whole world, or we, the Germans, fear God and, I submit. How many inhabitants has Melbourne? Asks Mueller. How do you expect to succeed in life if you don't know that? I ask Albert hotly, which he caps with, what is meant by cohesion? We remember mighty little of all that rubbish. Anyway, it has never been the slightest use to us. At school nobody ever taught us how to light a cigarette in the storm of rain, nor how a fire could be made with wet wood, nor that it is best to stick a bayonet in the belly because there it doesn't get jammed, as it does in the ribs. Mueller says thoughtfully, what's the use? We'll have to go back and sit on the forms again. I considered that out of the question. We might take a special exam. That needs preparation, and if you don't get through, what then? A student's life isn't any better. If you have no money, you have to work like the devil. It's a little better, but it's rot all the same. Everything they teach you. Kropp supports me. How can a man take all that stuff seriously when he's once been out here? Still, you must have an occupation of some sort, insists Mueller, as though he were Kentrick himself. Albert cleans his nails with a knife. We are surprised at this delicacy, but it is merely pensiveness. He puts the knife away and continues. That's just it. Cat and Dietering and Haya will go back to their jobs because they had them already. Himmelstoss too, but we never had any. How will we ever get used to one after this here? He makes a gesture toward the front. What we'll want is a private income, and then we'll be able to live by ourselves in a wood, I say, but at once feel ashamed of this absurd idea. But what will really happen when we go back? Wonders Mueller, and even he is troubled. Kropp gives a shrug. I don't know. Let's get back first, and then we'll find out. We are all utterly at a loss. What could we do? I ask. I don't want to do anything, replies Kropp wearily. You'll be dead one day, so what does it matter? I don't think we'll ever go back. When I think about it, Albert, I say after a while rolling over on my back, when I hear the word peacetime, it goes to my head, and if it really came, I think I would do some unimaginable thing. Something, you know, that it's worth having lain here in the muck for. But I can't even imagine anything. All I do know is that this business about professions and studies and salaries and so on, it makes me sick. It is and always was disgusting. I don't see anything at all, Albert. All at once everything seems to me confused and hopeless. Kropp feels it too. It will go pretty hard with us all, but nobody at home seems to worry much about it. 2 years of shells and bombs. A man won't peel that off as easy as a sock. We agree that it's the same for everyone. Not only for us here, but everywhere, for everyone who is of our age. To some more, and to others less. It is the common fate of our generation. Albert expresses it. The war has ruined us for everything. He is right. We are not youth any longer. We don't want to take the world by storm. We are fleeing. We fly from ourselves, from our life. We were 18 and had begun to love life and the world, and we had to shoot it to pieces. The first bomb, the first explosion bursts in our hearts. We are cut off from activity, from striving, from progress. We believe in such things no longer. We believe in that war. The orderly room shows signs of life. Himmelstas seems to have stirred them up. At the head of the column trots the fat sergeant major. It is queer that almost all of the regular sergeant majors are fat. Himmelstas follows him, thirsting for vengeance. His boots gleam in the sun. We get up. "Where's Chardon?" the sergeant puffs. No one knows, of course. Himmelstas glowers at us, wrathfully. "You know very well you won't say, that's the fact of the matter. Out with it!" Fatty looks round inquiringly, but Chardon is not to be seen. He tries another way. "Chardon will report at the orderly room in 10 minutes. Then he steams off with Himmelstas in his wake. I have a feeling the next time we go up wiring, I'll be letting a bundle of wire fall on Himmelstas' leg, hints Kropp. "We'll have quite a lot of jokes with him," laughs Mueller. "That is our sole ambition, to knock the conceit out of a postman." I go into the hut and put Chardon wise. He disappears. Then we change our posy and lie down again to play cards. We know how to do that, to play cards, to swear, and to fight. Not much for 20 years, and yet too much for 20 years. Half an hour later, Himmelstas is back again. Nobody pays any attention to him. He asks for Chardon. We shrug our shoulders. "Then you better find him," he persists. "Haven't you been to look for him?" Kropp lies back on the grass and says, "Have you ever been out there before?" "That's none of your business," retorts Himmelstas. "I expect an answer." "Very good," says Kropp, getting up. "See up there where those little clouds are? Those are anti-aircraft. We were over there yesterday. 5 dead and 8 wounded, and that's a mere nothing. Next time, when you go up with us, before they die, the fellows will come up to you, click their heels, and ask stiffly, 'Please may I go? Please may I hop it? We've been waiting here a long time for someone like you.'" He sits down again, and Himmelstas disappears like a comet. 3 days CB, conjectures Cat. "Next time I'll let fly," I say to Albert. But that is the end. The case comes up for trial in the evening. In the orderly room sits our lieutenant, Bertink, and calls us in one after another. I have to appear as a witness and explain the reason of Chardon's insubordination. The story of the bedwetting makes an impression. Himmelstas is recalled, and I repeat my statement. "Is that right?" Bertink asks Himmelstas. He tries to evade the question, but in the end has to confess, for Kropp tells the same story. "Why didn't someone report the matter then?" asks Bertink. We are silent. He must know himself how much use it is in reporting such things. It isn't usual to make complaints in the army. He understands it all right, though, and lectures Himmelstas, making it plain to him that the front isn't a parade ground. Then comes Chardon's turn. He gets a long sermon and 3 days open arrest. Bertink gives Kropp a wink and 1 day's open arrest. "It can't be helped," he says to him regretfully. He is a decent fellow. Open arrest is quite pleasant. The clink was once a fowl house. There we can visit the prisoners. We know how to manage it. Close arrest would have meant the cellar. They used to tie us to a tree, but that is forbidden now. In many ways we are treated quite like men. An hour later, after Chardon and Kropp are settled in behind their wire netting, we make our way into them. Chardon greets us crowing. Then we play scat far into the night. Chardon wins, of course, the lucky wretch. When we break it up, Cat says to me, "What do you say to some roast goose?" "Not bad," I agree. We climb up on the munition wagon. The ride costs us 2 cigarettes. Cat has marked the spot exactly. The shed belongs to a regimental headquarters. I agree to get the goose and receive my instructions. The outhouse is behind the wall, and the door shuts with just a peg. Cat hoists me up. I rest my foot in his hands and climb over the wall. Cat keeps watch below. I wait in a few moments to accustom my eyes to the darkness, then I recognize the shed. Softly I steal across, lift the peg, pull it out, and open the door. I distinguish 2 white patches. 2 geese, that's bad. If I grab one, the other will cackle. Well, both of them. If I'm quick, it can be done. I make a jump. I catch hold of one, and the next instant the second. Like a madman, I bash their heads against the wall to stun them. But I haven't quite enough weight. The beasts cackle and strike out with their feet and wings. I fight desperately, but Lord, what a kick a goose has. They struggle and I stagger about. In the dark, these white patches are terrifying. My arms have grown wings, and I'm almost afraid of going up into the sky, as though I held a couple of captive balloons in my fists. Then the row begins. One of them gets his breath and goes off like an alarm clock. Before I can do anything, Something comes in from outside. I feel a blow, lie outstretched on the floor, and hear awful growls. A dog. I steal a glance to the side. He makes a snap at my throat. I lie still and tuck my chin under my collar. It's a bulldog. After an eternity he withdraws his head and sits down beside me. But if I make the least movement, he growls. I consider. The only thing to do is get hold of my small revolver, and that too before anyone arrives. Inch by inch, I move my hand toward it. I have the feeling that it lasts an hour. The slightest movement, and then an awful growl. I lie still, then try again. When at last I have the revolver, my hand starts to tremble. I press it against the ground and say over to myself, jerk the revolver up, fire before he has a chance to grab, and then jump up. Slowly I take a deep breath and become calmer. Then I hold my breath, whip up the revolver, it cracks, the dog leaps howling to one side, I make for the door of the shed and fall head over heels one of the scuttering geese. At full speed I seize it up again, and with a swing toss it over the wall and clamber up. No sooner am I on top than the dog is up again as lively as ever and springs at me. Quickly I let myself drop. 10 paces away, Cat with the goose under his arm. As soon as he sees me, we run. At last we can take a breather. The goose is dead. Cat saw to that in a moment. We intend to roast it at once so that nobody will be any wiser. I fetch a Dixie and wood from the hut, and we crawl into a small deserted lean-to which we use for such purposes. The single window space is heavily curtained. There is a sort of hearth, an iron plate set on some bricks. We kindle a fire. Cat plucks and cleans the goose. We put the feathers carefully to one side. We intend to make 2 cushions out of them, with the inscription, "Sleep soft under shell fire." The sound of the gunfire from the front penetrates into our refuge. The glow of the fire lights up our faces. Shadows dance on the wall. Sometimes a heavy crash and the lean-to shivers. Aeroplane bombs. Once we hear a stifled cry. A hut must have been hit. Aeroplanes drone. The tack-tack of machine guns breaks out, but no light that could be observed shows from us. We sit opposite one another, Cat and I, 2 soldiers in shabby coats, cooking a goose in the middle of the night. We don't talk much, but I believe we have a more complete communion with one another than even lovers have. We are 2 men, 2 minute sparks of life, outside in the night and the circle of death. We sit on the edge of it, crouching in danger, the grease dripping from our hands. In our hearts we are close to one another, and the hours, like the room, flecked over with the lights and shadows of our feelings cast by a quiet fire. What does he know of me, or I of him? Formerly we should not have had a single thought in common. Now we sit with a goose between us and feel in unison, are so intimate that we do not even speak. It takes a long time to roast a goose, even when it is young and fat, so we take turns. One bastes it while the other lies down and sleeps. A grand smell gradually fills the hut. The noises without increase in volume, pass into my dream and yet linger in my memory. In a half-sleep I watch Cat dip and raise the ladle. I love him, his shoulders, his angular stooping figure, and at the same time I see behind him woods and stars, and a clear voice utters words that bring me peace. To me, a soldier in big boots, belt, and a knapsack, taking the road that lies before him under the high heaven, quickly forgetting and seldom sorrowful, forever pressing on under the wide night sky. A little soldier and a clear voice, and if anyone were to caress him he would hardly understand. This soldier with the big boots and the shut heart, who marches because he is wearing big boots and has forgotten all else but marching. Beyond the skyline is a country with flowers, lying so still that he would like to weep. There are sights there that he has not forgotten, because he never possessed them, perplexing yet lost to him. Are not his 20 summers there? Is my face wet, and where am I? Cat stands before me. His gigantic stooping shadow falls upon me, like home. He speaks gently, he smiles, and goes back to the fire. Then he says, "It's done." "Yes, Cat." I stir myself. In the middle of the room shines the brown goose. We take out our collapsible forks and our pocket knives and each cut off a leg. With it we have the army bread dipped in gravy. We eat slowly and with gusto. "How does it taste, Cat?" "Good. And yours?" "Good, Cat." We are brothers and press on one another the choicest pieces. Afterwards I smoke a cigarette and Cat a cigar. There is still a lot left. "How would it be, Cat, if we took a bit to crop and chawden?" "Sure," says he. We carve off a portion and wrap it up carefully in newspaper. The rest we thought of taking over to the hut. Cat laughs and simply says, "Chod." I agree. We will have to take it all. So we go off to the fowl house to waken them. But first we pack away the feathers. Krop and Chodden take us for magicians. Then they get busy with their teeth. Chodden holds a wing in his mouth with both hands like a mouth organ and gnaws. He drinks the gravy from the pot and smacks his lips. May I never forget you. We go to our hut. Again there is the lofty sky with the stars and the oncoming dawn, and I pass beneath it. A soldier with big boots and a full belly, a little soldier in the early morning. But by my side, stooping and angular, goes Cat, my comrade. The outlines of the huts are upon us in the dawn, like a dark, deep sleep. Chapter 6. There are rumors of an offensive. We go up to the front 2 days earlier than usual. On the way we pass a shelled schoolhouse. Stacked up against its longer side is a huge double wall of yellow, unpolished, brand-new coffins. They still smell of resin and pine and of the forest. There are at least 100. That's a good preparation for the offensive, says Mueller, astonished. They're for us, growls Dietering. Don't talk rot, says Cat to him angrily. You be thankful if you get so much as a coffin, grins Chodden. They'll slip you off a waterproof sheet for your old Aunt Sally of a carcass. The others jest too, unpleasant jests, but what else can a man do? The coffins are really for us. The organization surpasses itself in that kind of thing. Ahead of us everything is shimmering. The first night we try to get our bearings. When it is fairly quiet, we can hear the transports behind the enemy lines rolling ceaselessly until dawn. Cat says that they do not go back, but are bringing up troops, munitions, and guns. The English artillery has been strengthened, that we can detect at once. There are at least 4 more batteries of 9-inch guns to the right of the farm, and behind the poplars they have put in trench mortars. Besides these, they have brought up a number of those little French beasts with instantaneous fuses. We are now in low spirits. After we have been in dugouts 2 hours, our own shells begin to fall in the trench. This is the 3rd time in 4 weeks. If it were simply a mistake in aim, no one would say anything, but the truth is that the barrels are worn out. The shots are often so uncertain that they land within our own lines. Tonight, 2 of our own men were wounded by them. The front is a cage in which we must await fearfully whatever may happen. We lie under the network of arching shells and live in a suspense of uncertainty. Over us, chance hovers. If a shot comes, we can duck, that is all. We neither know nor can determine where it will fall. It is this chance that makes us indifferent. A few months ago, I was sitting in a dugout playing scat. After a while, I stood up and went to visit some friends in another dugout. On my return, nothing more was to be seen of the first one. It had been blown to pieces by a direct hit. I went back to the second and arrived just in time to lend a hand digging it out. In the interval, it had been buried. It is just as much a matter of chance that I am still alive as that I might have been hit. In a bomb-proof dugout, I may be smashed to atoms, and in the open may survive 10 hours' bombardment unscathed. No soldier outlives 1,000 chances, but every soldier believes in chance and trusts his luck. We look out for our bread. The rats have become much more numerous lately because the trenches are no longer in good condition. Dietering says it is a sure sign of a coming bombardment. The rats here are particularly repulsive. They are so fat, the kind we all call corpse rats. They have shocking, evil, naked faces, and it is nauseating to see their long, nude tails. They seem to be mighty hungry. Almost every man has had his bread gnawed. Krop wrapped his in his waterproof sheet and put it under his head. But he cannot sleep because they run over his face to get at it. Dietering meant to outwit them. He fastened a thin wire to the roof and suspended his bread from it. During the night, when he switched on his pocket torch, he saw the wire swing to and fro. On the bread was riding a fat rat. At last we put a stop to it. We cannot afford to throw the bread away, because then we should have nothing left to eat in the morning, so we carefully cut off the bits of bread that the animals have gnawed. The slices we cut off are heaped together in the middle of the floor. Each man takes out his spade and lies down prepared to strike. Dietering, Krop, and Cat hold their pocket torches ready. After a few minutes we hear the first shuffling and tugging. It grows. Now it is the sound of many little feet. Then the torches switch on, and every man strikes at the heap, which scatters with a rush. The result is good. We toss the bits of rat over the parapet and again lie in wait. Several times we repeat the process. At last the beasts get wise to it, or perhaps they have scented the blood. They return no more. Nevertheless, before morning the remainder of the bread on the floor has been carried off. In the adjoining sector they attacked 2 large cats and a dog, bit them to death and devoured them. Next day there was an issue of Edamar cheese. Each man gets almost a quarter of the cheese. In one way that is all to the good, for Edamar is tasty, but in another way it is vile, because the fat red balls have long been a sign of a bad time coming. Our forebodings increase as rum is served out. We drink it, of course, but are not greatly comforted. During the day we loaf about and make war on the rats. Ammunition and hand grenades become more plentiful. We overhaul the bayonets, that is to say, the ones that have a saw on the blunt edge. If a fellow over there catches a man with one of those, he's killed at sight. In the next sector, some of our men were found whose noses were cut off and their eyes poked out with their own saw bayonets. Their mouths and noses were stuffed with sawdust so that they suffocated. One of the recruits have bayonets of this sort. We take them away and give them the ordinary kind. But the bayonet has particularly lost its importance. It is usually the fashion now to charge with bombs and spades only. The sharpened spade is a more handy and many-sided weapon. Not only can it be used for jabbing a man under the chin, but it is much better for striking with because of its greater weight. And if one hits between the neck and the shoulder, it easily cleaves as far down to the chest. The bayonet frequently jams on the thrust, and then a man has to kick hard on the other fellow's belly to pull it out again, and in the interval he may easily get one himself. And what's more, the blade often gets broken off. At night they send over gas. We expect the attack to follow and lie with our masks on, ready to tear them off as soon as the first shadow appears. Dawn approaches without anything happening. Only the everlasting, nerve-wracking roll behind the enemy lines. Trains, lorries, but what are they concentrating? Our artillery fires on it continually, but still it does not cease. We have tired faces and avoid each other's eyes. "It will be like the Somme," says Cat gloomily. "There we were shelled steadily for 7 days and nights." Cat has lost all his fun since we have been here, which is bad, for Cat is an old front hog, and can smell what is coming. Only Chawden seems pleased with the good rations and the rum. He thinks we might even go back to rest without anything happening at all. It almost looks like it. Days after days pass. At night I squat in the listening post. Above me the rockets and parachute lights shoot up and float down again. I am cautious and tense. My heart thumps. My eyes turn again and again to the luminous dial of my watch. The hands will not budge. Sleep hangs on my eyelids. I work my toes in my boots in order to keep awake. Nothing happens till I am relieved. Only the everlasting rolling over there. Gradually we grow calmer and play scat and poker continually. Perhaps we will be lucky. All day the sky is hung with observation balloons. There is a rumor that the enemy are going to put tanks over and use low-flying planes for the attack. But that interests us less than what we hear of the new flamethrowers. We wake up in the middle of the night. The earth booms. Heavy fire is falling on us. We crouch into corners. We distinguish shells of every caliber. Each man lays hold of his things and looks again every minute to reassure himself that they are still there. The dugout heaves. The night roars and flashes. We look at each other in the momentary flashes of light, and with pale faces and pressed lips shake our heads. Every man is aware of the heavy shells tearing down the parapet, rooting up the embankment, and demolishing the upper layers of concrete. When a shell lands in the trench, we note how the hollow, furious blast is like a blow from the paw of a raging beast of prey. Already by morning a few of the recruits are green and vomiting. They are too inexperienced. Slowly the grey light trickles into the post and pales the flashes of the shells. Morning has come. The explosion of mines mingles with the gunfire. That is the most dementing convulsion of all. The whole region where they go up becomes one grave. The reliefs go out. The observers staggered in, covered with dirt and trembling. One lies down in silence in the corner and eats. The other, an older man of the new draft, sobs. Twice he has been flung over the parapet by the blast of the explosions without getting any more than shell shock. The recruits are eyeing him. We must watch them. These things are catching. Already some lips begin to quiver. It is good that it is growing daylight. Perhaps the attack will come before noon. The bombardment does not diminish. It is falling in the rear, too. As far as one can see spout fountains of mud and iron, a wide belt is being raked. The attack does not come, but the bombardment continues. We are gradually benumbed. Hardly a man speaks. We cannot make ourselves understood. Our trench is almost gone. At many places it is only 18 inches high. It is broken by holes and craters and mountains of earth. A shell lands square in front of our post. At once it is dark. We are buried and must dig ourselves out. After an hour the entrance is clear again, and we are calmer because we have had something to do. Our company commander scrambles in and reports that 2 dugouts are gone. The recruits calm themselves when they see him. He says that an attempt will be made to bring up food this evening. That sounds reassuring. No one had thought of it except Chadden. Now the outside world seems to draw a little nearer. If food can be brought up, think the recruits, then it can't really be so bad. We do not disabuse them. We know that food is as important as ammunition, and only for that reason must be brought up. But it miscarries. A second party goes out, and it also turns back. Finally Cat tries, and even he reappears without accomplishing anything. No one gets through. Not even a fly is small enough to get through such a barrage. We pull in our belts tighter and chew every mouthful 3 times as long. Still the food does not last out. We are damnably hungry. I take out a scrap of bread, eat the white, and put the crust back in my knapsack. From time to time, I nibble at it. The night is unbearable. We cannot sleep, but stare ahead of us and doze. Chadden regrets that we wasted the gnawed pieces of bread on the rats. We would gladly have them again to eat now. We are short of water too, but not seriously yet. Towards morning, while it is still dark, there is some excitement. Through the entrance rushes in a swarm of fleeing rats that try to storm the walls. Torches light up the confusion. Everyone yells and curses and slaughters. The madness and despair of many hours unloads itself in this outburst. Faces are distorted, arms strike out, and the beasts scream. We just stop in time to avoid attacking one another. The onslaught has exhausted us. We lie down to wait again. It is a marvel that our post has had no casualties so far. It is one of the less deep dugouts. A corporal creeps in. He has a loaf of bread with him. 3 people have had the luck to get through during the night and bring some provisions. They say the bombardment extends undiminished as far as the artillery lines. It is a mystery where the enemy gets all his shells. We wait and wait. By midday, what I expected happens. One of the recruits has a fit. I have been watching him for a long time, grinding his teeth and opening and shutting his fists. These hunted, protruding eyes, we know them too well. During the last few hours he has had merely the appearance of calm. He had collapsed like a rotten tree. Now he stands up, stealthily creeps across the floor, hesitates a moment, and then glides toward the door. I intercept him and say, "Where are you going?" "I'll be back in a minute," says he, and tries to push past me. "Wait a bit. The shelling will stop soon." He listens for a moment, and his eyes become clear. Then again he has the glowering eyes of a mad dog. He is silent. He shoves me aside. "Wait a minute, lad," I say. Cat notices. Just as the recruit shakes me off, Cat jumps in, and we hold him. Then he begins to rave. "Leave me alone. Let me go out. I will go out." He won't listen to anything and hits out. His mouth is wet and pours out words, half-choked, meaningless words. It is a case of claustrophobia. He feels as though he is suffocating here and he wants to get out at any price. If we let him go, he would run about everywhere regardless of cover. He is not the first. Though he raves and his eyes roll, it can't be helped. We have to give him a hiding to bring him to his senses. We do it quickly and mercilessly, and at last he sits down quietly. The others have turned pale. Let's hope it deters them. This bombardment is too much for the poor devils. They have been sent straight from a recruiting depot into a barrage that is enough to turn any old soldier's hair gray. After this affair, the sticky, close atmosphere works more than ever on our nerves. We sit as if in our graves, waiting only to be closed in. Suddenly, it howls and flashes terrifically. The dugout cracks in all its joints under a direct hit, fortunately only a little one that the concrete blocks are able to withstand. It rings metallically. The walls reel, rifles, helmets, earth, mud, and dust fly everywhere. Sulfur fumes pour in. If we were in one of those light dugouts that they have been building lately instead of this deeper one, none of us would be alive. But the effect is bad enough even so. The recruit starts to rave again, and 2 others follow suit. One jumps up and rushes out. We have trouble with the other 2. I start after one who escaped and wonder whether to shoot him in the leg. Then it shrieks again. I fling myself down, and when I stand up, the wall of the trench is plastered with smoking splinters, lumps of flesh, and bits of uniform. I scramble back. The first recruit seems actually to have gone insane. He butts his head against the wall like a goat. We must try tonight to take him to the rear. Meanwhile, we bind him, but in such a way that in case of attack he can be released at once. Cat suggests a game of scat. It is easier when a man has something to do, but it is no use. We listen for every explosion that comes close, miscount the tricks, and fail to follow suit. We have to give it up. We sit as though in a boiler that is being belabored from without on all sides. Night again. We are deadened by the strain, a deadly tension that scrapes along one's spine like a gaped knife. Our legs refuse to move, our hands tremble, our bodies are a thin skin stretched painfully over repressed madness, over an almost irresistible bursting roar. We have neither flesh nor muscles any longer. We dare not look at one another for fear of some miscalculable thing. So we shut our teeth. It will end. It will end. Perhaps we will come through. Suddenly the nearer explosions cease. The shelling continues, but it has lifted and falls behind us. Our trench is free. We seize the hand grenades, pitch them out in front of the dugout, and jump after them. The bombardment has stopped, and a heavy barrage now falls behind us. The attack has come. No one would believe that in this howling waste there could still be men, but steel helmets now appear on all sides out of the trench, and 50 yards from us a machine gun is already in position and barking. The wire entanglements are torn to pieces, yet they offer some obstacle. We see the storm troops coming. Our artillery opens fire. Machine guns rattle, rifles crack. The charge works its way across. Haya and Krop begin with the hand grenades. They throw as fast as they can. Others pass them, the handles with the strings already pulled. Haya throws 75 yards, Krop 60. It has been measured. The distance is important. The enemy, as they run, cannot do much before they are within 40 yards. We recognize the smooth, distorted faces, the helmets. They are French. They have already suffered heavily when they reach the remnants of the barbed wire and entanglements. A whole line has gone down before our machine guns. Then we have a lot of stoppages, and they come nearer. I see one of them, his face upturned, fall into a wire cradle. His body collapses. His hands remain suspended as though he were praying. Then his body drops clean away, and only his hands with the stumps of his arms, shot off, now hang in the wire. The moment we are about to retreat, 3 faces rise up from the ground in front of us. Under one of the helmets a dark, pointed beard and 2 eyes that are fastened on me. I raise my hand, but I cannot throw into the stranger's eyes. For one mad moment the whole slaughter whirls like a circus around me, and these 2 eyes alone are motionless. Then the head rises up, a hand, a movement, and my hand grenade flies through the air and into him. We make for the rear, pull wire cradles into the trench, and leave bombs behind us with the strings pulled, which ensures us a fiery retreat. The machine guns are already firing from the next position. We have become wild beasts. We do not fight. We defend ourselves against annihilation. It is not against men that we fling our bombs. What do we know of men in this moment when death is hunting us down? Now, for the first time in 3 days, we can see his face. Now, for the first time in 3 days, we can oppose him. We feel a mad anger. No longer do we lie helpless, waiting on the scaffold. We can destroy and kill to save others, to save ourselves, and to be revenged. We crouch behind every corner, behind every barrier of barbed wire, and hurl heaps of explosives at the feet of the advancing enemy before we run. The blast of the hand grenades impinges powerfully on our arms and legs. Crouching like cats, we run on, overwhelmed by this wave that bears us along, that fills us with ferocity, turns us into thugs, into murderers, into God only knows what devils. This wave that multiplies our strength with fear and madness and greed of life, seeking and fighting for nothing but our deliverance. If your own father came over with them, you would not hesitate to fling a bomb at him. The forward trenches have been abandoned. Are they still trenches? They are blown to bits, annihilated. There are only broken bits of trenches, holes linked by cracks, nests of craters, that is all. But the enemy's casualties increase. They did not count on so much resistance. It is nearly noon. The sun blazes hotly. The sweat stings in our eyes. We wipe it off on our sleeves and often blood with it. At last we reach a trench that is in a somewhat better condition. It is manned and ready for the counter-attack. It receives us. Our guns open in full blast and cut off the enemy attack. The lines behind us stop. They can advance no further. The attack is crushed by our artillery. We watch. The fire lifts 100 yards and we break forward. Beside me, a lance corporal has his head torn off. He runs a few steps more while the blood spouts from his neck like a fountain. It does not come quite to hand-to-hand fighting. They are driven back. We arrive once again at our shattered trench and pass on beyond it. Oh, this turning back again. We reach the shelter of the reserves and yearn to creep in and disappear. But instead we must turn round and plunge again into the horror. If we were not automata at that moment, we would continue lying there, exhausted and without will. But we are swept forward again, powerless, madly savage and raging. We will kill, for they are still our mortal enemies. Their rifles and bombs are aimed against us, and if we don't destroy them, they will destroy us. The brown earth, the torn, blasted earth, with a greasy shine under the sun's rays. The earth is the background of this restless, gloomy world of automatons. Our gasping is the scratching of a quill, our lips are dry, our heads are debauched with the stupor. Thus we stagger forward, and into our pierced and shattered souls bores the torturing image of the brown earth with the greasy sun and the convulsed and dead soldiers, who lie there, it can't be helped, who cry and clutch at our legs as we spring away over them. We have lost all feeling for one another. We can hardly control ourselves when our glance lights on the form of some other man. We are insensible, dead men, who through some trick, some dreadful magic, are still able to run and to kill. A young Frenchman lags behind. He is overtaken. He puts up his hands. In one he still holds his revolver. Does he mean to shoot or to give himself? A blow from a spade cleaves through his face. A second sees it and tries to run farther. A bayonet jabs into his back. He leaps into the air, his arms thrown wide, his mouth wide open, yelling. He staggers. In his back the bayonet quivers. A third throws away his rifle, cowers down with his hands before his eyes. He is left behind with a few other prisoners to carry off the wounded. Suddenly in the pursuit we reach the enemy line. We are so close on the heels of our retreating enemies that we reach it almost at the same time as they. In this way we suffer few casualties. A machine gun barks, but it is silenced with a bomb. Nevertheless, the couple of seconds have sufficed to give us 5 stomach wounds. With the butt of his rifle, Cott smashes to pulp the face of one of the unwounded machine gunners. We bayonet the others before they have time to get out their bombs. Then thirstily we drink the water they have for cooling the gun. Everywhere wire cutters are snapping, planks are thrown across the entanglements. We jump through the narrow entrances into the trenches. Haya strikes his spade into the neck of a gigantic Frenchman and throws the first hand grenade. We ducked behind the breastwork for a few seconds. Then the straight bit of trench ahead of us is empty. The next throw whizzes obliquely over the corner and clears a passage. As we run past, we toss handfuls down into the dugouts. The earth shudders, it crashes, smokes, and groans. We stumble over slippery lumps of flesh, over yielding bodies. I fall into an open belly on which lies a clean, new officer's cap. The fight ceases. We lose touch with the enemy. We cannot stay here long, but must retire under cover of our artillery to our own position. No sooner do we know this than we dive into the nearest dugouts, and with the utmost haste seize on whatever provisions we can see, especially the tins of corned beef and butter, before we clear out. We get back pretty well. There is no further attack by the enemy. We lie for an hour panting and resting before anyone speaks. We are so completely played out that in spite of our great hunger, we do not think of the provisions. Then, gradually, we become something like men again. The corned beef over there is famous along the whole front. Occasionally, it has been the chief reason for a flying raid on our part, for our nourishment is generally very bad. We have a constant hunger. We bagged 5 tins altogether. The fellows over there are well looked after. They fare magnificently, as against us, poor starving wretches, with our turnip jam. They can get all the meat they want. Haya has scored a thin loaf of white French bread, and stuck it behind his belt with a spade. It is a bit bloody at one corner, but that can be cut off. It is a good thing we have something decent to eat at last. We still have a use for all our strength. Enough to eat is just as valuable as a good dugout. It can save our lives. That is the reason we are so greedy for it. John has captured 2 water bottles full of cognac. We pass them around. The evening benediction begins. Night comes. Out of the craters rise the mists. It looks as though the holes were full of ghostly secrets. The white vapor creeps painfully round before it ventures to steal away over the edge. Then long streaks stretch from crater to crater. It is chilly. I am on sentry and stare into the darkness. My strength is exhausted as always after an attack, and so it is hard for me to be alone with my thoughts. They are not properly thoughts. They are memories which in my weakness haunt me and strangely move me. The parachute lights soar upwards, and I see a picture, a summer evening. I am in the cathedral cloister and look at the tall rose trees that bloom in the middle of the little cloister garden where the monks lie buried. Around the walls are the stone carvings of the Stations of the Cross. No one is there. A great quietness rules in this blossoming quadrangle. The sun lies warm on the heavy gray stones. I place my hand upon them and feel the warmth. At the right-hand corner, the green cathedral spire ascends into the pale blue sky of the evening. Between the glowing columns of the cloister is the cool darkness that only churches have, and I stand there and wonder whether, when I am 20, I shall have experienced the bewildering emotions of love. The image is alarmingly near. It touches me before it dissolves in the light of the next star shell. I lay hold of my rifle to see that it is in trim. The barrel is wet. I take it in my hands and rub off the moisture with my fingers. Between the meadows behind our town, where stands a line of old poplars by a stream, they were visible from a great distance, and although they grew on one bank only, we called them the Poplar Avenue. Even as children we had a great love for them. They drew us vaguely thither. We played truant the whole day by them, and listened to the rustling. We sat beneath them on the bank of the stream and let our feet hang in the bright, swift waters. The pure fragrance of the water and the melody of the wind in the poplars held our fancies. We loved them dearly, and the image of those days still makes my heart pause in its beating. It is strange that all the memories that come have these 2 qualities. They are always completely calm. That is predominant in them, and even if they are not really calm, they become so. They are soundless apparitions that speak to me, with looks and gestures silently, without any word, and it is the alarm of their silence that forces me to lay hold of my sleeve and my rifle lest I should abandon myself to the liberation and allurement in which my body would dilate and gently pass away into the still forces that lie behind these things. They are quiet in this way, because quietness is so unattainable for us now. At the front there is no quietness, and the curse of the front reaches so far that we never pass beyond it. Even in the remote depots and rest areas, the droning and the muffled noise of shelling is always in our ears. We are never so far off that it is no more to be heard. But these last few days it has been unbearable. Their stillness is the reason why these memories of former times do not awaken desire so much as sorrow, a vast, inapprehensible melancholy. Once we had such desires, but they return not. They are past. They belong to another world that is gone from us. In the barracks they called forth a rebellious, wild craving for their return, for then they were still bound to us. We belonged to them and they to us, even though we were already absent from them. They appeared in the soldiers' songs which we sang as we marched between the glow of the dawn and the black silhouettes of the forest to drill on the moor. They were powerful remembrance that was in us and came from us. But here in the trenches they are completely lost to us. They arise no more. We are dead and they stand remote on the horizon. They are a mysterious reflection, an apparition that haunts us, that we fear and love without hope. They are strong, and our desire is strong, but they are unattainable, and we know it. And even if these scenes of our youth were given back to us, we would hardly know what to do. The tender, secret influence that passed from them into us could not rise again. We might be amongst them and move in them. We might remember and love them, and be stirred by the sight of them. But it would be like gazing at the photograph of a dead comrade. Those are his features, it is his face, and the days we spent together take on a mournful life in the memory. But the man himself is not. We can never regain the old intimacy with those scenes. It was not any recognition of their beauty and their significance that attracted us, but the communion, the feeling of a comradeship with things and events of our existence, which cut us off and made the world of our parents a thing incomprehensible to us. For then we surrendered ourselves to events and were lost in them, and the least little thing was enough to carry us down the stream of eternity. Perhaps it was only the privilege of our youth, but as yet we recognized no limits and saw nowhere an end. We had that thrill of expectation in the blood which united us with the course of our days. Today we would pass through scenes of our youth like travelers. We are burnt up by hard facts. Like tradesmen, we understand distinctions, and like butchers, necessities. We are no longer untroubled. We are indifferent. We might exist there, but should we really live there? We are forlorn like children, and experienced like old men. We are crude and sorrowful and superficial. I believe we are lost. My hands grow cold, and my flesh creeps. And yet the night is warm. Only the mist is cold, this mysterious mist that trails over the dead and sucks from them their last creeping life. By morning they will be pale and green and their blood congealed and black. Still the parachute rockets shoot up and cast their pitiless lights over the stony landscape, which is full of craters and frozen lights like a moon. The blood beneath my skin brings fear and restlessness into my thoughts. They become feeble and tremble. They want warmth and life. They cannot persist without solace, without illusion. They are disordered before the naked picture of despair. I hear the rattle of the mess tins, and immediately feel a strong desire for warm food. It would do me good and comfort me. Painfully I force myself to wait until I am relieved. Then I go into the dugout and find a mug of barley. It is cooked in fat and tastes good. I eat it slowly. I remain quiet, though the others are in a better mood, for the shelling has died down. The days go by and the incredible hours follow another as a matter of course. Attacks alternate with counterattacks, and slowly the dead pile up in the field of craters between the trenches. We are able to bring in most of the wounded that do not lie too far off, but many have long to wait, and we listen to them dying. For one of them we searched 2 days in vain. He must be lying on his belly and unable to turn over. Otherwise it is hard to understand why we cannot find him. For it is only when a man has his mouth close to the ground that it is impossible to gauge the direction of his cry. He must have been badly hit, one of those nasty wounds, neither so severe that they exhaust the body at once and a man dreams on in a half-swoon, nor so light that a man endures the pain in the hope of becoming well again. Cat thinks he has either a broken pelvis or shot through the spine. His chest cannot have been injured, otherwise he would not have such strength to cry out, and if it were any kind of wound it would be possible to see him moving. He grows gradually hoarser. The voice is so strangely pitched that it seems to be everywhere. The first night some of our fellows go out 3 times to look for him, but when they think they have located him and crawl across, the next time they hear the voice it seems to come from somewhere else altogether. We search in vain until dawn. We scrutinize the field all day with glasses, but discover nothing. On the second day the calls are fainter. That will be because his lips and mouth have become dry. Our company commander has promised next turn of leave with 3 days extra to anyone who finds him. This is a powerful inducement, but we would do all that is possible without that, for his cry is terrible. Cat and Krop even go out in the afternoon, and Albert gets the lobe of his ear shot off in consequence. It is to no purpose, they come back without him. It is easy to understand what he cries. At first he called only for help. The second night he must have had some delirium. He talked with his wife and his children. We often detected the name Elise. Today he merely weeps. By evening the voice dwindles to a croaking, but it persists still through the whole night. We hear it so distinctly because the wind blows towards our line. In the morning, when we suppose he must already have long gone to his rest, there comes across to us one last gurgling rattle. The days are hot and the dead lie unburied. We cannot fetch them all in. If we did, we should not know what to do with them. The shells would bury them. They have their bellies swollen up like balloons. They hiss, belch, and make movements. The gases in them make noises. The sky is blue and without clouds. In the evening it grows sultry, and the heat rises from the earth. When the wind blows towards us it brings the smell of blood, which is very heavy and sweet. This deathly exhalation from the shell holes seems to be a mixture of chloroform and putrefaction, and fills us with nausea and retching. The nights become quiet, and the hunt for copper driving bands and the silken parachutes of the French star shells begins. Why the driving bands are so desirable, no one knows exactly. The collectors merely assert they are valuable. Some have collected so many that we will stoop under the weight of them when we go back. But Haya, at least, gives a reason. He intends to give them to his girl, to supplement her garters. At this, the Frisians explode with mirth. They slap their knees. By Jove, though, he's a wit. Haya, he's got brains. Chadden especially can hardly contain himself. He takes the largest of his rings in hand, and every now and then he puts his legs through it to show how much slack there is. Haya, man, she must have legs like legs. His thoughts mount somewhat higher. And beyond, too, she must have like an elephant. He cannot get over it. I wish I could play hot hand with her once. Haya beams, proud that his girl should receive so much appreciation. She's a nice bit, he says with self-satisfaction. The parachutes are turned to more practical uses. According to the size of the bust, 3 or perhaps 4 will make a blouse. Krop and I use them as handkerchiefs. The others send them home. If the women could see at what risk these bits of rags are often obtained, they would be horrified. Cat surprises Chadden endeavoring with perfect equanimity to knock the driving band off a dud. If anyone else had tried it, the thing would have exploded, but Chadden always has his luck with him. One morning 2 butterflies play in front of our trench. They are brimstone butterflies with red spots on their yellow wings. What can they be looking for here? There is not a plant nor flower for miles. They settle on the teeth of a skull. The birds, too, are just as carefree. They have long since accustomed themselves to the war. Every morning larks ascend from no man's land. A year ago we watched them nesting. The young ones grew up too. We have a spell from the rats in the trench. They are in no man's land. We know what for. They grow fat. When we see one, we have a crack at it. At night we hear again the rolling behind the enemy lines. All day we have only the normal shelling, so that we are able to repair the trenches. There is always plenty of amusement. The airmen see to that. There are countless fights for us to watch every day. Battle planes don't trouble us, but the observation planes we hate like the plague. They put the artillery to us. A few minutes after they appear, shrapnel and high explosives begin to drop on us. We lose 11 men in one day that way, and 5 of them stretcher-bearers. 2 are smashed so that Chadden remarks you could scrape them off the wall of the trench with a spoon and bury them in a mess tin. Another has the lower part of his body and his legs torn off. Dead. His chest leans against the side of the trench. His face is lemon yellow. In his beard still burns a cigarette. It glows until it dies out on his lips. We put the dead in a large shell hole. So far there are 3 layers, one on top of the other. Suddenly the shelling begins to pound again. Soon we are sitting up once more with the rigid tenseness of blank anticipation. Attack, counterattack, charge, repulse, these are words, but what things they signify! We have lost a good many men, mostly recruits. Reinforcements have again been sent up to our sector. They are one of the new regiments, composed almost entirely of young fellows just called up. They have hardly any training. and are sent into the field with only a theoretical knowledge. They do know what a hand grenade is, it is true, but they have very little idea of cover, and what is most important of all, have no eye for it. A fold in the ground has to be quite 18 inches high before they can see it. Although we need reinforcement, the recruits give us almost more trouble than they are worth. They are helpless in this grim fighting area. They fall like flies. Modern trench warfare demands knowledge and experience. A man must have a feeling for the contours of the ground, an ear for the sound and character of the shells, must be able to decide beforehand where they will drop, how they will burst, and how to shelter from them. The young recruits, of course, know none of these things. They get killed simply because they hardly can tell shrapnel from high explosive. They are mown down because they are listening anxiously to the roar of the big coal boxes falling in the rear, and miss the light piping whistle of the low-spreading daisy cutters. They flock together like sheep instead of scattering, and even the wounded are shot down like hares by the airmen. Their pale, turn-up faces, their pitiful clenched hands, the fine courage of these poor devils, the desperate charges and attacks made by the poor brave wretches, who are so terrified that they dare not cry out loudly, but with battered chests, with torn bellies, arms and legs only whimper softly for their mothers and cease as soon as one looks at them. Their sharp, downy, dead faces have the awful expressionlessness of dead children. It brings a lump into the throat to see how they go over, and run, and fall. A man would like to spank them. They are so stupid, and to take them by the arm and lead them away from here, where they have no business to be. They wear grey coats and trousers and boots, but most of them the uniform is far too big. It hangs on their limbs. Their shoulders are too narrow, their bodies too slight. No uniform was ever made to these childish measurements. Between 5 and 10 recruits fall to every old hand. A surprise gas attack carries off a lot of them. They have not yet learned what to do. We found one dugout full of them, with blue heads and black lips. Some of them in a shell hole took off their masks too soon. They did not know that the gas lies longest in the hollows. When they saw others on top without masks, they pulled theirs off too and swallowed enough to scorch their lungs. Their condition is hopeless. They choke to death with hemorrhages and suffocation. In one part of the trench I suddenly run into Himmelstrasse. We dive into the same dugout. Breathless, we are all lying one beside the other waiting for the charge. When we run out again, although I am very excited, I suddenly think, "Where is Himmelstrasse?" Quickly I jump back into the dugout and find him with a small scratch lying in the corner pretending to be wounded. His face looks sullen. He is in a panic. He is new to it too. But it makes me mad that the young recruits should be out there and he here. "Get out!" I spit. He does not stir. His lips quiver. His mustache twitches. "Out!" I repeat. He draws up his legs, crouches back against the wall, and shows his teeth like a cur. I seize him by the arm and try to pull him up. He barks. This is too much for me. I grab him by the neck and shake him like a sack. His head jerks from side to side. "You lump, will you get out? You hound, you skunk, sneak out of it, would you?" His eyes become glassy. I knock his head against the wall. "You cow!" I kick him in the ribs. "You swine!" I push him toward the door and shove him out head first. Another wave of our attack has just come up. A lieutenant is with them. He sees us and yells, "Forward! Forward! Join in! Follow!" And the word of command does what all my banging could not. Himmelstrasse hears the order, looks round him as if awakened, and follows on. I come after, and watch him go over. Once more he is the smart Himmelstrasse of the parade ground. He has even outstripped the lieutenant, and is far ahead. Bombardment, barrage, curtain fire, mines, gas, tanks, machine guns, hand grenades, words, but they hold the horror in the world. Our faces are encrusted, our thoughts are devastated. We are weary to death. When the attack comes, we shall have to strike many of the men with our fists to waken them and make them come with us. Our eyes are burnt, our hands are torn, our knees bleed, our elbows are raw. How long has it been? Weeks, months, years? Only days. We see time pass in the colorless faces of the dying. We cram food into us. We run, we throw, we shoot, we kill, we lie about. We are feeble and spent, and nothing supports us but the knowledge that there are still feebler, still more spent, still more hopeless ones there who, with staring eyes, look upon us as gods that escaped death many times. In the few hours of rest we teach them. There, see that waggle top? That's a mortar coming. Keep down, it will go clear over. But if it comes this way, then run for it. You can run from a mortar. We sharpen their ears to the malicious, hardly audible buzz of the smaller shells that are not easily distinguishable. They must pick them out from the general din by their insect-like hum. We explain to them that these are far more dangerous than the big ones that can be heard long beforehand. We show them how to take cover from aircraft, how to simulate a dead man when one is overrun in an attack, how to time hand grenades so that they explode half a second before hitting the ground. We teach them to fling themselves into holes as quick as lightning before the shells with instantaneous fuses. We show them how to clean up a trench with a handful of bombs. We explain the difference between the fuse length of the enemy bombs and our own. We put them wise to the sound of gas shells, show them all the tricks that can save them from death. They listen, they are docile, but when it begins again, in their excitement, they do everything wrong. Hyavistus drags off with a great wound in his back through which the lung pulses at every breath. I can only press his hand. It's all up, Paul. He groans, and he bites his arm because of the pain. We see men living with their skulls blown open. We see soldiers run with their 2 feet cut off. They stagger on their splintered stumps into the next shell hole. A lance corporal crawls 1.5 miles on his hands, dragging his mashed knee after him. Another goes to the dressing station, and over his clasped hand bulge his intestines. We see men without mouths, without jaws, without faces. We find one man who has held the artery of his arm in his teeth for 2 hours in order not to bleed to death. The sun goes down. Night comes. The shells whine. Life is at an end. Still the little piece of convulsed earth in which we lie is held. We have yielded no more than a few 100 yards of it as a prize to the enemy. But on every yard there lies a dead man. We have just been relieved. The wheels roll beneath us. We stand dully, and when the call, mind, wire, comes, we bend our knee. It was summer when we came up. The trees were still green. Now it is autumn, and the night is gray and wet. The lorries stop. We climb out, a confused heap, a remnant of many names. On either side stand people, dark, calling out the numbers of the brigades, the battalions, and at each call a little group separates itself off. A small handful of dirty, pallid soldiers, a dreadfully small handful, and a dreadfully small remnant. Now someone is calling the number of our company. It is, yes, the company commander. He has come through, then. His arm is in a sling. We go over to him, and I recognize Kat and Albert. We stand together, lean against each other, and look at one another. And we hear the number of our company called again and again. He will call a long time. They do not hear him in the hospitals and shell holes. Once again, 2nd Company, this way, and then one more softly. Nobody else, 2nd Company? He is silent, and then huskily he says, Is that all? He gives the order, Number! The morning is gray. It was still summer when we came up, and we were 150 strong. Now we freeze. It is autumn. The leaves rustle. The voices flutter out wearily. 1, 2, 3, 4, and cease at 32. And there is a long silence before the voice asks, Anyone else? And waits, and then says softly, In squads. And then breaks off and is only able to finish, 2nd Company. With difficulty, 2nd Company, march easy. A short line, trudges off into the morning. 32 men.